Have a resolution to adopt the agenda.
Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of council of the municipality of Dashwood et al. Held on January 23rd, 2024 be approved as presented.
Mover and seconder, Nancy and Barry, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest in general nature thereof? Okay, being none, have a resolution to adopt the minutes.
Be it resolved that council approves the following meeting minutes as circulated: regular meeting of council December 12th, public meeting December 12th, and special meeting of council January 12th.
Okay, mover and seconder, Pat and Tammy, all in favor? Carried, thank you. There's not much to report on the mayor and deputy mayor's updates, except the short-term rental bylaw is coming. We got as many opinions on that as we do the farmer's market. And it's a very difficult thing to decide what the middle of the road is and what's right, but it's been 4 years in the working, and there is going to be something happen for 2024, I do believe. Okay, then I guess, Barb, we're going to hear from you for the budget.
Oh, Barb, you're muted, just so you know.
Okay, yes, good morning.
Good morning.
So we have here the bylaw 2024-05 to adopt the estimates of expenditures and revenues for the year 2024. So resulting from the 2024 budget meeting held on January the 12th, Council provided staff direction to prepare a bylaw in support of a 6.48% tax levy increase for the 2024 taxation year. So essentially that translates into the following increases on a per $100,000 assessment. Residential will be a $20.49 increase per 100,000. Commercial will be $30.38, and industrial will be $35.21. So if you take as an example a property assessed at $300,000, their tax levy increase will be $61.47 in 2024. So the total property tax revenue generated for 2024 is budgeted at $11,964,721. And the accompanying bylaw, the schedules to support the tax levy increase is attached. I will note that the county rates have yet to be finalized. And I did hear this week that the education rates will not be increasing, so they will remain at the 2023 level. So that concludes the report.
So if the education tax rate stays the same and we went up 6.48, I understand the county's around around 7 before we have another look at it. So we'd probably end up with an overall tax increase of about 3%, because education is half of it. So that's not good, and nobody wanted to put it up that much, but the way the times are, but boy, the cost of everything is right through the roof, and you can't hold it and maintain the roads and the services we're providing. So is there any discussion on that?
I think we did a lot of digging on that in terms of budgets and everything else. And I think just from what I've been reading anyway, other municipalities and townships are up around 10 to 14%. So I think we've done our best to keep as tight as we can. We'll have to maybe do a bit of catch up next year with hopes that the market will rebound a bit more and the sunshine will be out again. But anyway, I'm in support of that.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, then sure there's no more discussion. Make sure we're happy here. Okay, resolution then.
Okay. Be it resolved that bylaw 2024-05, being a bylaw to adopt the estimates of expenditures and revenues for the year 2024, to authorize levying the rates of taxation for 2024, to estimate the due date for payment of taxes, and to provide penalty and interest to be added to unpaid taxes, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and the corporate seal attached thereto.
Okay, mover and seconder, Barry and Pat. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is a public meeting, and this requires a fair bit of reading, but it is on the agenda in this order, so we shall do it. Good morning and welcome. The public meeting for January the 23rd, 2024 will come to order. A notice of those in attendance that this meeting will be live streamed on YouTube and recorded. Please note that the recording will be linked to the municipal website. The purpose of the public meeting is to present planning applications in a planning forum as required of the Planning Act. This is a public meeting to consider one proposed zoning amendment to the Dysart et al. Zoning bylaw 2005, 120. It is council's responsibility to consider all information received to date regarding the applications and to hear and consider any views you may have about these applications. Every person present or registered will have the opportunity to ask questions about the proposals and voice their opinion regarding same. Please state your name and your relation to the application prior to speaking. Each person will have 5 minutes to provide comment or ask questions. Please direct all your questions and comments to the chair. Please restrict your comments to planning matters only. And after this public meeting is over, council will make a recommendation as to whether or not the proposed zoning amendment should be passed. Council's recommendations will then be considered during the regular meeting of council. Once council has made a decision on the proposed amendment, notice will be circulated as per the Planning Act. All those persons who have given the municipality written notice that they would like to receive notice of the decision will receive a copy of the decision. You must make this request in writing. The Planning Act specifies that if a person or public body does not make an oral submission at a public meeting or make written submissions before the proposed bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the municipality to the Ontario Land Tribunal and may not be added as a party to an appeal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So we'll now commence the public meeting as per agenda. And the first application is file number D08OP 2023-03 and D14ZB 2023-009 Emerson Lumber Limited. The municipal planner will now give a brief overview of the purpose and effect of the proposed amendment.
Murray, before we get too far, I'm just gonna read the resolution to go into public meeting as well.
Right?
Okay, be it resolved that council hereby adjourns the regular meeting of council at 9:08 AM. To proceed into a public meeting to consider official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment files D08-OP 2023-003 and D14-ZB 2023-009 lands of Emerson Lumber Limited.
Okay, mover and seconder. Nancy and Carm, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Okay. Jeff, or who's giving this report? No?
There they come.
Okay, Jeff?
Good morning, Mayor, members of council. The planning manager, Chris Orson, will give a brief explanation of this application for council.
Okay, Chris?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So this is for the application for the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for Emerson Lumber. The applicant wishes to use their adjacent property located off of George Street to expand their existing lumber business for storage space of lumber uses and material. The proposed requires the owner to change the official plan designation of the property from urban residential to commercial. and rezone the property from urban residential type 3-13 exception zone with a holding provision to highway commercial exception zone as shown on the attached schedules. The special policy area SSP-8 will be removed from the vacant lands, which is no longer required for the proposed commercial use. The proposed is also subject to the site plan control, which will ensure the property is developed in accordance with the approved site plan. The owner has also noted that the property will merge with the adjacent lots in the future to form one larger lot. The all neighboring owners within 120 meters of the subject property have been notified and circulated, and the application advertisement was placed in the local paper. At the time of the writing of the report, no comments were received. However, we did receive a comment yesterday, which was from Stephen Dow, and he is a neighboring property owner with just a couple of concerns. The first concern was about disruptive, that the use may be disruptive. It will be with the trucks and coming in and out, so creating noise from that use. The lumberyard will spoil their current view that they have. And if the zoning is changed as proposed, what will stop any future development on the site, which could potentially ruin the entire neighborhood, which could be used in so many other ways that we haven't imagined yet. So just some clarification on those for note number 1. Trucks are not permitted to access the vacant property, just to let council know when they're making their decision. Any of the products brought into that vacant lot will be unloaded on the main property and forklift up to the vacant property. For the second the second comment, which is for the current views, development which may impede neighbors' view is not contemplated in the planning rationale or policy unless impeding on skyline or views from the lake. So this doesn't, and it's going to be used as open storage. So no structures or buildings are permitted as part of this application. And then the proposed is for site-specific zoning, as mentioned, for storage and lumber material. And as noted, any development of the property would require an additional zoning amendment to allow for those uses to take place on the property. And it is recommended that council approve the application as per the recommendation. The owner is in attendance to speak to the application, to address any questions council may have. And I believe Stephen Dow may be in attendance as well to confirm comments provided and address council as well if needed. And that concludes the presentation.
Okay. Are there any questions from council? Okay. Kim is present. Kim, do you have any comment?
Kim, can we get you to come up to the microphone, please? There's a button to push on it.
Lit up. Thank you. So I'm Kim Emerson. Thank you for your consideration on this. As mentioned by Chris there, Mr. Dow was one of the neighbors. He was here in attendance this morning. And sort of like in the movies, you settle something on the courtroom steps. He asked me some questions and I clarified the questions that he had and he was satisfied with that, so he left. So other than that, there has been no other submissions from the adjacent landowners. It was circulated by myself in September and then recirculated, and as Chris said, put in the paper. So there's no other problems that anybody's seen to have on the property.
Certainly gone through the due process for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other questions for Kim? Okay, sounds like it's resolved. Good.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would comment on this? So this concludes the public comment. And if there are no further questions from council, this concludes the public meeting for this particular file. We will now adjourn to regular council.
So Murray, I'll read the resolution and it's
Right.
it's doozy legal description, so everyone buckle up. Okay, be it resolved that the report for file numbers D08-OP 2023-003 and D14-ZB 2023-009 for the lands of Emerson Lumber Limited, which consists of part lot 17, concession 8, part mill reserve, part lots 1, 6 to 8, block M, lots 2, 3, and 4, block Q, plan 1, part road allowance, parts 2, 3, 6, and part of part 1, registered plan 19R-8209, parts 1 and 2, plan 19R-3816, part 2, plan 19R-4579, part 2, plan 19R-10782 in the geographic township of Dysart, municipality of Dysart et al. Be received for information. And that council directs that a bylaw to adopt OPA 5 be brought forward for consideration during its January 23rd, 2024 meeting. And that council recommends approval of the proposed bylaw, and that council directs the bylaw be brought forward for consideration during its January 23rd, 2024 meeting, which would change the zone on the subject land from urban residential type 3-13 exception zone withholding provision to highway commercial exception zone. And that council recommends that the proposed bylaw be approved, subject to the approval of the official plan amendment.
Okay. So that's the resolution. Mover and seconder. Nancy and Pat, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. So now we're going to go back, I guess.
I'll read the resolution to adjourn public
Back,
meeting. if you'd
yeah,
like.
to adjourn.
Okay, be it resolved that council hereby adjourns the public meeting at 9:17 AM. And reconvenes the regular meeting of council.
We have a mover and seconder. Barry and Walt, all in favor? Carried. Okay, so we're going to jump a little now because there's quite a few people here that are anxious to hear the discussion on the farmer's market. If that's okay. And I know they're standing and it's uncomfortable. So we have that letter, I believe. Okay, so we do have a letter from the organization there, laying out various things that they're prepared to do and change the hours and I know that they didn't ask for a delegation, but does anyone want to speak on their behalf here? Yeah. Go ahead, you can come on. Morning.
Good morning. I will answer questions.
Okay. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to, we have had some thought about this. And we're not trying to, although there's a big concern that we're trying to put you out of business, we're not. First of all, we have two sites that we've offered you free and clear, and the one is Rotary Beach. I know you don't like it, and the other is the boardwalk. So we have arrived at $5 per unit. So in other words, if you have say you have it's May and you got 12, that's $60 per day. And if you have 40 in July, that'd be 200 per day. So, and if it rained on a Tuesday and you didn't participate, it wouldn't be anything. So that's a substantial difference financially to what we proposed before. And I guess where we're coming from here is I know everybody thinks it should be free and everything should be free, by the way, but it isn't. We do have a lot of money to spend on the park. And nobody's trying to take advantage of the farmers. We know the importance. We know that you have certain rules to meet. And I know how you have to get by the health unit and all these bodies. So we know we don't have running water down there and things that a lot of farmers markets do have. But what we think is, if we, first of all, it is for profit. I know you say it's not for profit, but it is for profit. Because the people that are in there and they sell money, say McLean's sell $800 in the day. That's a profit. That goes back to McLean's, which is fine. We're not arguing that, but it is for profit. All of the other groups that are in there, and I know you point to the boat races. Well, they put everything in place, they take everything up, and they contribute like $2,000 to the hospital. So they're giving to the community. Rotary are in there, they do a lot of good, and they contribute to the community. We haven't seen that from the farmers market. So we'll be looking at everybody in there and making sure that we treat everybody fairly, the same. And I hope with this proposal that it's doable.
May I respond?
Yes,
wanna cut
absolutely.
You off. $5 per market is well over 25% increase in their fees for the season. I believe you just commented that the increase you're asking for generally in Dysart is 3%, and that's high. But this is a big ask from our vendors. You used an example of 800. It is vanishingly rare that we would have a vendor taking home that kind of money. And I speak as a past
Yeah,
vendor.
I know, you've been in there.
Yes.
I bought from
And certainly I cannot make a decision at this time on behalf of our vendors
I
and
understand.
our board. We appreciate that there's some negotiability. The other thing I want to comment on is it's wonderful that people make contributions to the hospital, etc. But I really strongly feel that the contribution we bring by attracting thousands of tourists to this community that go in and spend their dollars is absolutely not to be underestimated.
we're not.
And I feel that I feel that it tends to be overlooked. I read from the letter we brought in at our delegation in December that some of the local businesses actually laid off people. They had people in the summer when we were there and no longer employed them because being off to the side meant that they no longer had the level of income they had before. So I feel there are different ways that organizations make real contributions. And I do ask you to all to please consider that.
Well, we were trying to. The other thing that happens when we have it's go to town Tuesday.
Yes,
So all the merchants have sales.
yes,
So one feeds off the other. It isn't necessarily one.
absolutely.
Want to make that clear. Okay, I think you've made good points, Angel, for sure. And as you know, I was a big part of getting you in the park. But I
Yes,
didn't realize it was
I
going to be,
remember.
it was
Yeah.
going to be like this. So it is what it is. So, well, we'll give this consideration. So you don't know if your group,
I do not,
Okay.
but to me, an increase to ask our vendors for a roughly 30% increase is staggering, given, and I focus again on your comment, 3% is high for the local monies you are
but really
asking.
the local share is 6.48, not 3. It's just when we add the education tax,
I
that is
see,
3.
but still, you're not asking over 25%. Anyway.
Well,
thank
I
you.
would hope not.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll get back to this at some point. Have another discussion and we'll go from there. But we did hear your presentation for sure.
Murray, will we have a date or will some representative from the farmer's market let us know where that $5 fits? Or
Yeah.
it sounds like it's not, but on the same note,
Would it be possible to get a list of your vendors as well?
I would need to talk to our board. Let me speak to our board. I don't feel it's appropriate to make a decision without speaking with.
I understand.
so I should ask you this when you're up there, but 25% increase. So this is over and above the $5 that they've been paying now, or is?
I understand they pay 25 now, is that right?
I'm sorry. Well, the vendors pay approximately 300 to 400 a season for the whole season. $5 a market times 21 markets is 125. So that's a big bump up on their payment.
But they do pay $25, don't they? Because we were told that here once.
I'm not aware of any. Pardon?
For the process of being a member at the market. you
Yeah,
pay
yeah, there's a one-time membership.
Okay.
fee. That's $25.
Right.
So $25 a year, one-time membership fee for that year,
Yes,
correct? Okay.
And then they pay, what was the other thing they pay?
approximately 400 for 21 markets. That covers all 21.
Okay, so 40 of them pay $400.
$20.
Yeah.
20 bucks.
Yeah, $20. Okay. Okay, we understand that. Okay. Thank you.
Murray, would you like to pass a resolution with that proposal, or would you like to pass a resolution just to acknowledge receipt of correspondence? What would you like to do?
Are you going to get back to us today?
I think it'll take a little longer. I'm sorry.
Okay.
To gather our members, some of the board are working full time.
Well, we can pass it today, and if you shed light on it that changes our mind, then we will change our mind.
Thank you.
Okay?
So we're doing $5 per vendor? Is that how we'll word it?
Wait,
Okay.
With some restrictions, all right?
Yeah.
Like,
So
rain
I'll
days and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. So if they have a rainy Tuesday and they don't show up, they don't pay anything. So, which it seems to rain a lot on Tuesday down. Doesn't it?
so I'll read the resolution as it's written now. Let me know if it needs adjustments. So be resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the correspondence from Angel Taylor on behalf of the Haliburton County Farmers Market Association regarding the 2024 Haliburton Village Farmers Market location. And further, that council permits the 2024 Haliburton Village Farmers Market to return to the Head Lake Park location on the condition that the market organizers provide $5 per vendor per market day to the municipality to be used for repairs to the park as a result of the market.
Mover and seconder. Pat and Barry, all in favor? Carried. Okay, so it's passed. We'll amend it if we see otherwise, okay? Okay.
Hours still changed to 10?
Yeah, well, that's what was proposed. Is that good for you or bad for you?
Coffee's great in the morning.
Well, if you're not a coffee guy though. I mean, if you need flexibility in that, I think we're prepared to go along with it.
Sure.
Okay, so did we do a resolution, Mallory, to go back into regular session?
We did.
Okay, we did. So we're going to the first delegation then. Joshua DeBoer.
Just itching to ask the $5. I was trying to get the bottom of what they pay per visit. I was trying to figure out the 25% increase from $5. If you put the price your fucking trinkets up to 50 cents a trinket, you're gonna be fine. No. I'm all for small businesses. It's just, but it's the same note, like. Anyway.
Yeah. Rob's coming in?
No, I read it, but I didn't spend too much time on it because I'm sure 10K coming into towns on that.
Oh, yeah. Okay, Rob and.
Yeah, good morning, Mayor, members of council. So before you have a report for a speed limit analysis of our entire network. This work was approved in the latter half of 2022. It's a little late coming to the table, and I'll eat that one. It kind of sat on my desk for a little bit. The cost associated with this was funded by the Municipal Modernization Fund, so there was no tax dollars spent on this study. The intent of this study was to address what realistic speed limits should be on our road network. Over the past several years, we've had a lot of speeding complaints, and we've had a lot of discussion on what speed limits should be and what roads should be posted versus not. So we've brought in Joshua here to go over the study that they've completed, and it provides a good opportunity for council to ask the experts really any questions they have, any lingering questions about speed limits. And I will do a follow-up report on this. I was just hoping to get some discussion with council first prior to getting a scope for my report, and I'll bring it forward later this year, probably next month.
Well, we've all had a chance to read that lengthy report, by the way, very thorough, and a lot to read into it. Because it could take a long time to go through this all and look like a checkerboard with all the signs we'd have to put up. How would you like to capsule what you see happening in Dysart as a result of your study? Can you do that?
Is that for Josh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good morning, Mayor, members of council, and thank you, Rob. Yes, so we did prepare the study. It was quite lengthy, and I think our intent as engineers was to provide the information the municipality was seeking. And there are a number of options to move forward with if the municipality chooses to do so. I have prepared a slide deck with some options noted later in the slide deck. But essentially it range from having the report to understanding it, what's needed for the future, or implementing the speed limit bylaws and enforcement, and a number of other measures that could help help address any speeding concerns in the municipality.
How would we enforce that?
There's generally two options. The first would be through police. Their standard enforcement mechanisms. And the second would be through automated speed enforcement, which is a new method, which is quite complicated at this point, especially for smaller municipalities. But those are the two options.
Well, it's very detailed, and certainly we're going to need more detail from Rob on where we go with this. Like, you couldn't possibly put all those signs up. It'd be virtually impossible. Rob?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm not a big believer in signage, quite honestly, but in this instance, the crux of this report is if we don't pass bylaws and we don't sign according to the Highway Traffic Act, our roads are actually by default 80 kilometers an hour. So that's basically the side effect of this study is if we don't bylaw and we don't sign it appropriately, we are by default 80 kilometers an hour, and that will have impact on our minimum maintenance standards.
So we need, if we bylaw, we need to sign it, right?
That's correct.
So can we sign at the start of the road and then at the end of the road? Oh, this is like there'd be 100 signs on Conesus Lake Road. I mean,
Yes. So So as follow up, one of the options will be implementation over a number of years. But there's going to be costs associated with signing this if you choose to do that. At the very least, we should be revisiting the bylaws we have in place and ensuring we have the proper signage up for those.
Yeah, and I see some of them should go to 40 from 50, and I understand that, especially in town.
And half of our roads then are on signed, which means they're at 80 then, right? 50% of our roads.
That's correct. Yeah, simply placing a sign at the start and end of a road does not change the speed limit on that road, unfortunately.
What's the signage interval then, if that's the case? Like you go up to 400, they don't have speed limit signs every 100 meters.
I can address that one, Rob. There is standards in the Ontario Traffic Manual, and this would be in Book 5 for regulatory signage. There's a number of spacing requirements set out depending on whether it's a statutory or bylaw speed limit, and also if it's a built-up area or rural. In general, it ranges between 300 and 900 meters, but can go up to, in general, 300 to 900 meters per sign. And that's OTM Book 5. It's publicly available.
So when half load road signs go up, they're posted at the start and the end of the highway. I don't know why we can't do the same thing with that. Between snow plows and everything else, every sign every year will be knocked over or bent or something like that. I don't, anyway, I'm struggling with that one, but I'm all about getting people slowed down in certain areas that's required or that makes sense, but to sign them every 100 or 300 meters is getting a little carried away.
Ridiculous, yeah. So what defines a build-up area?
That relates to the frontage of the public right of way. If 50% of the frontage over 200 meters is developed area, that's deemed a built-up area. Or I think there's a second option if it's on one side 100% for maybe 100 meters. This is in the Highway Traffic Act, and it's in my slides as well. But essentially, it's how built up the frontage is along the public right of way.
A little more complicated than those.
Yeah. I think engineers who made these.
Yeah.
Has any other townships, any local townships done this? Because I'm not sure the county even complies with this, with their signage.
We're doing a study, a similar study right now for Algonquin Highlands, and we did one previously for the township of Scugog.
Okay.
Has anybody implemented these new regulations yet? I drive all over. I haven't seen this ever so far.
Yes, so the township of Scugog implemented the signage. And they have a little bit more built up area in Fort Perry. And if those are statutory limits, so in a built up area, it's 50 kilometers an hour, so they don't require the 50 kilometer signage if it's statutory. So that helped a little bit with their signage.
Okay, that's. Yeah, that's clear as mud now. No. Well, I think we'll,
Can I just ask a question?
yes,
So if you made like, a community safety zone, where would that fit in with speed limits and signage?
So community safety zones can be, they're also by law, that's regulatory as well. Those limits can be defined based on where road safety issues are identified. And the spacing for those, if we're speaking about signage, off the top of my head, I believe under 1 kilometer, you just need one for the start and ends. But if it's over 1 kilometer, you need a sign every 300 meters. So that would be the guidance on that. And also in the community safety zone, it doubles the fines for violations like speeding.
If that idea works, I think it's the most practical. In any areas that need to be brought down or even signage, if you just label them as a community safety zone at the start and the end, to me, I think that's a good solution to it.
Especially high residential where there's walking, biking.
Or a cottage road going in front of a cottage where they got lakefront access on the other side. Anyhow.
yeah, I agree. So your report's wrapped up then for now, right?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions? Well, we'll certainly have to look at this in detail later and see where we're going with it. But I know one thing, costs $100,000 to put all those signs up, then you'd be knocking them down, so. And I'm not sure people pay attention when there's no enforcement anyway. So, anyway, if we have an obligation, we have to honor it for sure. Okay, well, thanks for your presentation and thanks for your study. And if we have questions, I'm sure Rob will be back to you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
You want me to read the resolution?
Oh.
Norman?
For sure.
Okay. Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the presentation from by Joshua DeVore from Paradigm Transportation Solutions Limited, detailing the results of Desert All Speed Limit Study.
Mover and seconder. Walt and Barry, all in favor? Carried. Walt, if you have to get going, there's really not much else if you have to.
Yeah, I think with the weather I'm hearing about, I think I'm gonna get on the road. So thanks very much and see everybody when I get back.
Okay. Drive
It'll be great to get back to home, believe me. Thank
You
you.
don't love it in the Toronto, eh?
Oh, boy, it's too big for me.
Yeah.
Too big. Take care, everybody. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Alex Dag, brother. Morning. And I think Carl and Jeff are joining us for this.
Morning, Mayor and Council. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to all of you today. My name is Alex Dag, and I'm a resident of Dysart. I own a home located off Boyce Bradley Drive, just north of Eagle Lake. In 2018, I purchased my neighbor's property on the same non-motorboat lake for my adult children and grandchildren to use. And when they're not using it, I do short-term rentals in the property. But since I live next door, I keep a close eye on my guests and the property and regularly communicate with my neighbors about it. In fact, many of my neighbors have used my property as well for extended family gatherings when they don't have enough space. And my cottage has also been booked by specialized construction workers who need a place to stay while working on nearby properties. I have regular families who book my cottage every year, shop in the community, go to the farmers markets, use the hiking trails. And my place has really been a way for many more families to enjoy the beautiful lakes and the woods here, those that can't afford their own place, but would like to spend a week or two here. And in fact, in Haliburton County now, 77% of all accommodation is provided by short-term rentals. Families have been renting cottages here for generations. This is not new. The internet has allowed me and others to rent our properties casually. The typical Airbnb host in Haliburton County earns $9,000 per year and rents about 50 nights per year. 85% of us own one property, and collectively in Ontario, we've contributed over $1 billion to the Ontario economy. So short-term rental hosts like me believe we should be regulated. We'd be happy to be licensed or to register with the county. The problem is that the current proposed bylaws are extremely onerous and expensive for us to comply with. It threatens my ability to keep renting to my families and for hundreds of others like me. People like me who host a few months every year and live in this community and invest in this community. The draft bylaws are a huge overreach, bureaucratic nightmare for small operators like me. It includes a long list of requirements that we believe are just not necessary for good governance of short-term rentals and threaten small businesses and small operators like me. At a time of significant inflation and cost increases, the county would be requiring us to contribute 4% in MAT taxes, municipal accommodation tax, that are only applied to short-term rentals. Why not hotels and motels? Why just short-term rentals? Require us to purchase our shoreline allowance. What does this do for good governance of short-term rentals? How does this solve the problem property? It just costs all of us significant extra costs to purchase our shoreline allowance for no good policy reason. A 2-year process and thousands of dollars for us to do that. Require us to have $2 million liability insurance. We already have $1 million liability insurance. Why the extra million? Again, for the costs, money that we don't have. Submitting of detailed floor plans to scale and detailed parking plans. Do I have to hire a planner, a designer, an architect to help me? I don't know how to draw my building to scale. I have a 4-bedroom place with 2.5 bathrooms, and I limit my guests to 8. I can attest to this in a registration system. Happy to tell you that. And then you can inspect any problem properties where you get complaints. I don't see how you have the people power or ability to inspect all of us. Focus your attention on the properties where you get complaints. Public signage. So other question is why? All of my neighbors know I short-term rent and they can contact me at any time. I'm often there by myself. I don't want people driving down my driveway thinking that this is a public place that they can take a look at, disturbing me, my guests, my kids, my family. Also becomes a magnet for burglars. Feel like putting a sign out in front of my property is just not safe for me or my family. This is a private home. I think you should require us to have a person available for problems that may arise. I believe that is in the bylaw, someone to contact by the municipality, but there's no public policy reason why you need public signage out in front. You're going to know who we are. You're going to know where we are and how to contact us. Most of us are responsible hosts and contribute to the community. Design a bylaw that solves the problem hosts and the problem properties. Don't design a bylaw that most of us can't afford to comply with, and then you can't afford to enforce. We all pay property taxes here, and a complicated bylaw means complicated enforcement and cost to the county and to the municipality. There's wide scale support for a simple licensing or a registration system for hosting. A system where the county and the municipalities know who we are, who hosts here, and then you can track down any problem hosts. have a system for fines for problem properties, and then revoke a license for any infractions. As designed, it's really anti-business and anti-tourism. Many of you are business owners here in the community and business owners who benefit from tourism and residents who are building and investing. The draft bylaw is unworkable, expensive, and won't solve your problem. Costs will go up, families will book elsewhere if it becomes too expensive to come here. Many of us won't be able to comply or don't have the funds to purchase our shoreline allowances, and we'll stop renting. But how does that help our community? Many of us can't also afford to contribute the 4% MAT tax. We can't increase our prices by 4%. At the same time, our bookings are way down. We're having to reduce our costs and our prices, and now having to pay an additional 4% as well. I know that some of us have asked you to delay the implementation of this bylaw. If you're not prepared to do that, we understand that, but at least please make some amendments as I proposed here. I can list them again. Remove the public signage requirement. There's no reason for it, and you just put us in danger. Require $1 million liability insurance. That's enough, and it requires us to ensure that we're properly insured. Require us to register and attest to the size of our place. 2 people per bedroom, I think, is reasonable. Remove the requirement for detailed drawings. It's just, I don't see why you need to know that. Remove the requirement to purchase our shoreline allowance. And then remove the 4% MAT tax, or the very, very least, apply it to all. Don't discriminate against just us. Apply it to all the hotels, motels, and lodges as well. I think if you design a complaint-based inspection system, it'll be more affordable for the county, and then you also deal for the municipality, and that way you also deal with the problem properties. We know that there are problem properties. You want to solve that. We get that. Those of us that are responsible want you to solve that too, because we all get thrown under the bus. But I believe it's possible through some changes to the bylaw that you can implement a pretty straightforward bylaw that will help solve problems in this community. And we will all register. We'll pay an annual fee if that's what you require us to do. Just don't have us put public signage up and require us to buy our shoreline allowance and the hiring a planner to do detailed drawings. I'd be happy to work with you or your staff to help make any amendments that will allow us to become regulated and continue to contribute to small business and tourism here in Dysart, to help build a healthy and sustainable community here. Really appreciate your time and attention to working with us to try to make the bylaw more workable and get you guys what you need, and us to be able to comply and be continuing to contribute. As it stands now, I'm retired. I don't know how I'm supposed to afford to buy my shoreline allowance.
Well, we are addressing that. We understand that, and we understand your concern about the signage as well. The problem that we have is, how do we determine a person like yourself as a small short-term renter? How do we differentiate, and when do you become a commercial enterprise?
Well, if you're gonna, I think in the bylaw, sorry if I can
Yeah.
answer. I think in the bylaw, you're gonna require us to register, right? So you're gonna know who we are. You're gonna have that contact information. If I come and register and I own 15 properties, I don't, I wish I did, but I don't. That what you're gonna know that I have 15 properties, right? And I think I am assuming that you hear about certain properties regularly. If you know who the problems are, you haven't heard of me here, because I take a lot of responsibility. I work to make sure my neighbors know how to call me, how to contact me, and I happen to be next door, so they tend to be.
How many weeks of the year do you rent?
Weeks a year, probably 12 to 13, 14. I wish sometimes I could rent more. The winter is, which scares me, because I used to have guests that would go to Sir Sam's for weekends, and well, there's snow now.
Yeah.
And it's just really slow. It's a bit concerning. I think people are dealing with inflation, and they're not going to spend weekends here, and because they can't afford it. And so you're asking us to incur all these costs at the same time as our prices. I've had to reduce my price a lot. And I'm still not booked. So summers are still pretty popular here, as you know, but, fall used to be good, spring used to be good, winter used to be good.
Can I ask a couple of questions here before
course.
you get?
Sure.
So Carl, you can help us out in this one. So the road allowance, the purchase of the road allowance. If you don't have anything on that road allowance, and I think this might be the case on your property, that you don't have to purchase the road allowance. Is that my understanding? Am I right there?
Yeah, that's correct. If you only need to purchase that road allowance if the cottage or the sleeping cabin are on that road allowance.
Okay.
Which I don't, and
You know my
I know her
property.
property. Yeah. So anyway,
It just, I think it's not clear, right?
that's why I'm asking. It's not clear for us either, because we're kind of, the county's done this
Mhm.
more than we have dealt with us. So we're learning a little bit here too. And another one would be the detailed drawings, like Carl, so what's a detailed drawing? Like, is it something that she could do, just basically measure her house and say, this is it, and I'm 80 feet from the lake, or I'm 100 feet from the lake, and my house is 20 by 40, and maybe do a little sketch of the number of bedrooms on the inside? Is that all it really needs, or does it have to be a lot more detailed than that?
It's essentially a site plan. Now, the wording in the bylaw is a little more detailed than that. It requires it to be to scale. And so at the end of the day, we'd probably look for something similar to what we require for building permit applications with regards to site plan, as long as it shows everything. And again, it'll be up to council if they want to keep in that to scale provision in the bylaw. For myself, I don't think it's necessary as long as it shows everything that's on the site. That's those, it does talk about to scale, but floor plans, it's essentially similar to a floor plan that we receive for our septic review, our simple septic review, which is essentially, it could be something hand drawn. As long as it shows if it's a rectangle, it shows the rectangle. If there's bump outs, it shows the bump outs, shows the room names. And that's all required under what we call the fire safety plan. So it shows the locations of the smoke alarms, shows the locations of the fire extinguishers and exits. So that's essentially what we need. And again, doesn't need to be a planner or basically a designer that provides these. The better the drawing, the better it is for us to review them and make sure they're complete. But so I've been reviewing other municipalities' websites, and I think it is it's either Blue Mountains or Tiny that actually have example drawings of what a floor plan is, of a site plan, those types of things. So we would probably be providing that as part of the education towards this bylaw, so that people can simply make these drawings. It doesn't need to come from a professional.
Okay, and last thing is, why are they requiring the signage? Is it just because, like, if you're gonna have a 911 number, if somebody registers or something, you're gonna have their 911 number. So what is the idea behind the signage? Not that I'm arguing that we shouldn't have it, I'm just curious of what the thoughts are there.
So the purpose of the 911 sign is so that they can relay all the relevant information to whoever is taking that call, whether it's the municipality or our third party vendor, which we're going to get to later today. But so they would have a copy of the 911 address, the license number, the name of the Airbnb, so they can put it all together and make sure that it's the right place before they go and call the basically the representative of that site to get that party cut down or whatever, those types of things. So that's the purpose of that 911 sign, or that sign near the 911 sign, is just to make it easy for anybody to be able to determine that this is an Airbnb and this is the relevant information that I have to pass on.
You make it dangerous for me, right? I'm sorry. I live there by myself. I don't want a sign out in front of my place. You're going to have that information as to who I am, my phone number, my email address.
No,
municipality is going to have it.
So we have that
Put a sign
information.
out in front of my property.
So the information, it basically identifies the rental name, not your name, but the rental. What do you call the place? So basically, that's what you submit as your on your application is what it's called. So it doesn't have to do anything with your name. It's basically the name of the rental. So people have unique names for their rentals, and that's what it's basically there for. It also helps people find the place if they're coming there for the first time to those types of things.
Carl, just based on my own opinion, of course, I don't have a problem with not having a sign at the end of the driveway. Like if I have a noisy neighbor or I'm pissed, if I'm upset at somebody, I'll find the 911 number and that should be easily transferable to it, like in terms of first aid and fire and all that type of stuff. They have no trouble normally in finding the place. So I don't know why we need to delineate the renters from the individuals. That's my own opinion, of course.
Yeah, it's entirely up to council which way you
Right.
you choose to go with this, and it's definitely topics that we're going to be discussing. Now, the other thing on the 911 side is who do you call if there's a complaint, right? So that's going to be right on that sign as well. So again, for people to just try and scour the internet trying to find a number to call for 911s in Dysart, or for STR complaints. So it's just there to make it convenient if there is a complaint. Again, it's entirely up to council if you want to keep that provision or not. I'm not trying to convince you either way.
Yeah, no, and we appreciate your comments, but on the same note, just in light of what you just said, if the lake associations themselves were given the contact name for noisy neighbors or whatever, they're gonna find it. And to me, if it's a problematic rental, then somebody, the neighbor's gonna have it right on their fridge, if you ask me. But anyway, that was my first comment. I like the idea of a voluntary write out or a license or what have you, instead of a heavy inspection on that note. And I've said this before in different aspects where if she puts in all of her voluntary information, septic size, bedrooms, who she rents to, and all this other information on it, it's going to lessen the load on number one, the county. Number two, this is their facts. So if there's a complaint or say the place burns down or what have you, we're taking their gospel as to what was there versus what we go in and inspect. So say we go and inspect it, say we shove that aside and we inspect and we do this and that other thing. That to me, that puts the township in a liability position if there is something that happens that we missed or we didn't catch or what have you on that note. So to me, in terms of streamlining this whole process, we're just trying to wade through all these little details to try and make it, as effective for the lake, the lakes themselves, but also in the spirit of being an entrepreneur or a cottage or making ends meet or what, however you want to paint it. Let's keep it as simple as we can on that note. So again, like I said, I'm all for this, just for voluntary information, sending it in. And anyways, I guess council's got some time ahead of them to sort some of
Yeah,
this stuff out.
they
But
do.
it's so when, in terms of the process now, Murray, where is that with do we collectively as a township get to chip in on what we
Well,
think's coming up?
we have had the opportunity a couple times to chip in. It was here last meeting, it was here the meeting before, I believe. Anyway, I guess a couple things I'd like to ask. The $1 million liability insurance. Even my insurance is telling me I need 2 million. They're all recommending 2 million. And on the shoreline, if you have a building on the shoreline allowance and you rent it and you don't own the shoreline allowance, the county's liable or the township's liable. That's why that came about. So we're going to get around that with a license of occupation. So you don't have to buy the shoreline because it's onerous and expensive for sure. So I think a couple of those issues we can resolve, and the signage, I think we can work on that too. So.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
How do you feel about the 4% tax that you're applying to all of us?
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to come out of my pocket, right? I can't increase my rates by 4%. In fact, I've had to drop my rates. So
Why is that?
less demand.
Yeah.
People get to travel to Europe
Well-
now, right? Like they're not.
Well, it's the
Right.
economy and you can't
Yeah.
change the economy.
Yeah.
You can, but it's gonna take time. Tim?
Just to address the MAT tax, I've been in tourism meetings for 20 years. And over the 20 years, it has come to the table to the tourism stakeholders several times as to whether Haliburton County would apply a MAT tax to the accommodators to collect. And every time, we've even had people come in and speak. They have brought people in to speak that come from an area that does collect the MAT tax. And it has always been a firm no.
Yeah.
No, the accommodators do not want to add the extra tax to their customers. And so I don't understand why it is being put on, the onus has been put on the short-term rental people now. Oh no, the regular accommodators don't want to have it in Haliburton County, but now it all of a sudden falls on the short-term renters to collect it. I don't think that's fair.
Well, I guess the issue is what's fair, and I agree with you, it never went anywhere in the past. But there's two things happen here. There's been a tremendous influx on cottage rentals, tremendous. A lot bigger than I think we realized, like thousands. And I heard we had 1,000 in Dyser. So
I
maybe
think it's a couple
900 or
hundred.
something. But anyway, regardless of that, these people come in, spend a week here. They use the roads, they use the landfill, they use the facilities, and they walk away and we never see them again. So that is the mentality that is being used for MAT tax. And it's not the only place in Ontario where there's MAT tax. So, and when you talk about accommodators that are paying commercial tax, there's very few of them left that are in business, in the resort business. And they've been pushed out by cottage rentals, no question about it. So that's another issue.
Yeah.
But hey, we'll have another kick at the cat here or two, but this is not simple, folks. If it was simple, like we've been doing this county's been doing it, we haven't, but this council hasn't, but the county's been doing it for 4 years. And has anybody been participating very much in the last 4 years? It's all the last 2 months. Like, why do we wait till the very end to start putting our ideas forward?
A lot of us participated in the consultations, but we didn't see the draft bylaw itself till a few months ago, I understand, and the draft bylaw is really complicated. I've read it multiple times and I didn't understand the shoreline allowance piece, and I'm still not super clear on that. And I look at it and think, I can't rent anymore. I can't afford to do this. I'm gonna have to do something else. And so a lot of people, I think, feel like that and are very concerned. I know, speaking for myself, I want to comply. I want to be regulated. I want you to know how to contact me if there's a problem. You won't hear because I'm really careful, but I think that's fair.
Well, I think
to say that you have
you're
it.
probably doing the right thing, you know.
I work really hard on it. So, and most of us do. There's a handful of ones who don't, and unfortunately they kind
Well,
of wreck it.
From
for
what you hear,
all of
there's
us.
quite a handful. Anyway, we'll get there.
They come back. And the meetings also, their slogan was more heads in beds in Haliburton County for years and years. And did you say that it was 70% or 77%? Okay, short-term rentals are solving the tourism problem in Haliburton County by getting people here. And I feel like it's something like geocaching. You don't even, for the most part, you don't even know they're here because everything is exactly the same. There's people in cottages, whether it's the owner or the renter. And for the most part, nobody knows what's going on and how many people are actually here. And just like geocachers, they come in, they do their thing, they get out. And we're trying to it just feels like we're trying to squash the best thing that's ever. Could you imagine if we passed a bylaw that everybody that had lakefront cottages had to rent their cottage out a minimum of 4 weeks a year to comply with our tourism mandate, for instance? Could you imagine the amount of people that, oh no, I can't do that. You're not going to be in my cottage. The short-term rental people are risking. There's a certain amount of risk to have their private cottage go to renters. And they're solving the tourism problem by putting people in here. And it's such a great idea because not a lot of people know where these cottages, because they come just like yours, where they're behaving and they're doing what, you know, how many though cottages or people on complaints, and maybe Carl might know, of it's the owners that are being complained on. Like nobody is saying how many people get called on, and they're the owners of the cottages, not short-term rentals. It's exactly the same thing where it is complicated.
It is. There's just no easy answer to it.
Mario, not to keep dragging this out, but I read in one of the individuals that wrote in, there was a lawsuit going on in Tiny Township. Do you know anything about that?
I do know there's a lawsuit going on.
What does that entail? Like, will it affect the trajectory of kind of what we're talking about here based on its outcome, do you think, as a precedent, or what?
I don't know what, there's one item, I know that, and I don't know what it is. What they're.
Okay.
Carl, I think Carl has some updates on that.
Yeah, so I looked into that lawsuit based on our next delegate's presentation. But so their issue is that they're limiting the number of STRs to 300. They currently have over 600, and they're limiting it to 300, and that's what the basis of that lawsuit is. So it's not necessarily about the regulations themselves, but there's certain things that Tiny is doing differently than what our bylaw is proposing. They're also limiting the number of rentals to like 92 days of it out of the year, and that's it. So those types of things. Our bylaw doesn't look at doing any of those types of things that Tiny is doing, and that's the basis of their lawsuit.
Tell you that, since I've been down in the county, I don't know how many times we've sent things to our lawyer for an opinion, so that we don't get sued. Because that's what Airbnb will do. People, the way it is, but.
Whoever's speaking right now, the mic's not on, just a warning.
What do you think about taking a deposit from the renters and then giving it back if there's no damages?
I'm not sure how that would work. You mean the county would get a
No,
deposit?
you're the renter, so
Oh.
you take, say, it's the number that I'm hearing from a lot of the people saying Airbnb used to do that, and they don't do it anymore. So they're saying, we'll take $1,000 up front, and if there's no damage at the end of the week, we give you the $1,000 back. But if there is damage, we're going to fix it with the $1,000. What do you
Right.
think of that as a?
Yes, Airbnb used to do that, but Airbnb has a whole insurance system. So if there's damages, we can make a claim through the internet platform, and they work with us.
So you are with Airbnb?
I am. I rent on Airbnb. I used to work for them too, but
Oh,
I'm
okay.
retired.
Okay.
So doing this in my free time now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so there's a pretty good system in place already if there are damages. It rarely happens, but the odd time. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, it's certainly, we'll try and look after some of those concerns.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Like me to read the resolution?
Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Lauren.
Be it resolved, the council acknowledges receipt of the delegation from Alex Stagg, Airbnb host and local resident expressing concerns with the proposed short-term rental regulations.
Mover and seconder, Barry and Tammy, all in favor? Carried. Okay, next, Christine Lake.
Hello, Mayor Ferry and Council. Would it be possible to put my PowerPoint up?
Well, we did see it, but you can put it up.
Oh, I'd like to go through it.
Sure, okay.
So Christine, can you share your own screen? Do you have it up on your computer?
I don't have it on my computer, no.
Oh, okay. Well, we can't share it. Unfortunately, we don't have it up, but you can go through it if you'd like. They have it, all council has it pulled up on their devices.
Okay. My name is Christine Legg, and my husband and myself have owned a seasonal waterfront residential property in Dysart for over 30 years. I'm not a planner or a lawyer, but I am a mother and a grandmother and would like to protect Dysart for future generations. I have been looking into what other areas are doing about short-term rentals, and I would like to share what I have learned and share my reasons for requesting that Dysart pause the short-term licensing bylaw at this time. History of cottage rentals, then and now. Then, some cottage owners would rent their cottage to an acquaintance for a couple of weeks to help with the cost of taxes or maintenance. I refer to them as ma and pa operations. Now, many cottages are being purchased or newly built for rental purposes, rented as full-time businesses, marketed and advertised as luxury cottage rentals on many social media platforms, operated as a hotel-like business with all linens provided, extra charges for cleaning fees, etc., and payments in excess of $10,000 a week through credit cards. These are commercial operators that own the property mainly for the sale of commercial accommodations. I believe the municipality of Dysart is proposing to license these commercial short-term rentals and allow them to operate in all residential zones. Ma and pa occasional rentals need to be differentiated between commercial short-term rentals and both be defined in the zoning bylaw and permitted in specific zones. It has been suggested that there are between 1,500 and 2,000 short-term rentals in Dysart and rapidly increasing. The negative impacts of short-term rentals in residential neighborhoods. Disruptive noise, loud music, locals no longer have neighbors, only different random groups of people constantly coming and going, lack of community. Property values will decrease together with the tax base if you own a property near a short-term rental. Septic overload with constant use by large groups, overuse of strong toxic cleaning supplies, and lack of respect or awareness for the natural environment. Public safety issues with transients in residential neighborhoods, unsafe boating, swimming, overburdening of private right-of-ways. The municipality of Dysart is proposing to license short-term rentals and allow them to operate in all zones. Zoning bylaw amendments and official plan amendments will be required. Zoning bylaw amendments to allow short-term rentals in all zones is a big change to our zoning bylaw and should require public consultation as per the Planning Act. Legalizing zoning bylaw and official plan amendments to allow short-term rentals to operate in all zones might legalize a currently illegal use and could result in all short-term rentals claiming that they are a legal non-conforming use and continue to operate in residential zones. I have requested to speak to the mayor and council today to provide some information that you may not be aware of and to ask that you please pause a short-term rental licensing bylaw, obtain expert legal and planning opinions to confirm whether short-term rentals are a permitted use under the existing zoning bylaw. Do not proceed with any changes to the official plan, the zoning bylaw, or introduce licensing until you have obtained expert opinions. Can licensing control short-term rentals, or could it leave Dysart exposed to a free-for-all and costly lawsuits? There are 4 documents that are attached to my presentation that may help to answer this question. The first document is the lawsuit that you referred to earlier between the short-term rental operators and Tiny Township that was filed on December 8th, 2023. And they're seeking to invalidate the licensing that was put in place. And as Carl referred to, the licensing was limiting the number of licenses to 300, the number of days you could rent to 92 days per year, and a minimum of a 6-day rental. Short-term rental operators have filed this lawsuit to challenge these restrictions and the short-term rental licensing bylaw. They are also seeking relief and damages for interfering in their lawful business and are claiming legal non-conforming use. The Responsible Host Facebook page includes township may be liable for compensating short-term rental owners for lost revenue and earnings suggests exposure in the millions will have to be borne by Tiny Township. They say the way out would have been to grandfather existing short-term rentals. Short-term rental operators are raising money through GoFundMe to challenge the township. This could be disastrous and very costly for Dysart taxpayers. My second document is a Huntsville staff report and legal opinion from John Ewart. This letter appears to confirm what the Tiny Township operators are saying, that the town cannot limit licenses, locations, or number of days, and this could result in allegations of unfairness or discrimination and could serve to expose to potential litigation and liability. My third document is a blog from the Ontario Professional Planners Institute by Gordon Knox. And this blog includes, if temporary accommodations, including short-term accommodations, are not listed as permitted in residential zones, they are prohibited. The fourth document that I've included is regulating short-term accommodations in Blue Mountain, lessons learned by Terry Keller. And his comments are, licensing can be a costly failure. Short-term accommodations and temporary accommodations were never a permitted use in residential zones. To protect residential zones, municipalities should retain legal counsel very experienced in municipal law. If a use is not listed, then it is not permitted. Conducting a use that is not permitted is a violation of the zoning bylaw. Prior to licensing, zoning bylaw, and official plan amendments, I am asking the municipality of Dysart to consider the following. How could short-term rentals be permitted in all zones if they are not listed as a permitted use anywhere in the Dysart zoning bylaw? Cottage rentals are also not listed as a permitted use in the Dysart zoning bylaw. The Dysart zoning bylaw includes amendments that were required to permit a rental cottage and a rental cabin as exceptions in an RU and a CT zone. A bed and breakfast is defined in the zoning bylaw and is only a permitted use in specific zones, and bed and breakfast operators have to be present. A hotel, lodge, and resort are defined as a tourist establishment, which provides temporary accommodation for the traveling or vacationing public, and are only a permitted use in the tourist commercial zone. Short-term rentals also provide temporary accommodation for the traveling and vacationing public. Short-term rentals, ma and pa, and commercial need to be defined and permitted in specific zones, as are bed and breakfast, hotel, etc. Short-term rentals are currently prohibited in residential zones in Dysart. This has never been disclosed. This has never been disclosed to the residents of the municipality of Dysart. The fact is clearly evident from the zoning bylaw and can be confirmed by an expert legal firm such as Aird Bearless. Additional information, there are 2 legal cases that have determined short-term rentals are a commercial use and are not compatible in residential areas. I have previously supplied these legal cases to the county and Dysart. These cases determine that short-term rentals are distinct commercial entities with the goal of making a profit. Single-family use cannot be a hotel business. So I'm again asking the mayor and council to consider all of the information that I have supplied, and please pause the short-term rental licensing bylaw. Do not proceed with any changes to the official plan, the zoning bylaw, or introduce licensing until you have obtained the expert legal and planning opinions and full public consultation has been completed. Avoid the irreversible problems and legal costs that Tiny Township and other municipalities are facing. Avoid legal non-conforming use claims. Enforce the existing Dysart zoning bylaw and confirm short-term rentals are not a permitted use in residential zones. Obtain an expert legal opinion from the law firm Aird and Bearless to confirm short-term rentals are not a permitted use under the existing zoning bylaw. Aird Bearless has already provided a legal opinion to the County of Haliburton regarding short-term rentals. I requested a copy of this legal opinion, but my Freedom of Information request was denied by the County of Haliburton. My final words. The County of Haliburton has told the municipalities and townships that zoning bylaw amendments are required to allow short-term rentals to operate in all zones. This appears to be a big change to the Dysart zoning bylaw, and we have not even been told what these blanket zoning bylaw amendments are. Nor has there been any public consultation on a zoning bylaw amendment, which I believe is required under the Planning Act. It appears that a large part of the municipality may be rezoned to permit commercial short-term rentals in residential zones and allow them to continue to operate in all zones. This would in effect change all our residential zones to allow commercial use. I believe most residents are not aware of this and are focusing on the wishful thinking that finally, maybe, licensing can control this out-of-control use. But again, council is not even telling us that this use is not listed as a permitted use in the Dysart existing zoning bylaw. So again, I'm requesting that short-term rental bylaw be paused. Why license something that is not listed as a permitted use? We need expert legal and planning opinions and public consultation with honest and transparent dialogue to protect taxpayers from very costly lawsuits that other areas are experiencing and to protect residential neighborhoods from incompatible use. There's also the big outstanding question as to how Dysart plans to differentiate between ma and pa and commercial rentals and determine what zones they might be permitted in. There are too many unanswered questions. Proceeding with any changes to the official plan or zoning bylaw or enacting a licensing bylaw before confirming that short-term rentals are already prohibited in residential zones, I believe is not good planning. By not disclosing this information to residents, there is a lack of transparency and is a failure by council to protect the well-being of the municipality of Dysart. I believe protecting the well-being and orderly development of safe and healthy communities are requirements of the municipal and the planning acts. Thank you very much.
Thank you, that's interesting. So you were, you said that the county had an opinion from that legal firm?
Yes, they do.
And they wouldn't provide that to you?
No.
Okay, well, I haven't seen that, so it must be before I was there. I think you raised a good point. So do you think if it's not in the zoning bylaw, then or in the official plan, it's not laid out, then you shouldn't be able to do it, right?
Well, I'm not a planner or a lawyer, but that's what I have read. If it's not listed in a zoning bylaw as permitted, then it's not permitted. And the fact that even cottage rentals, there had to be exceptions written into the zoning bylaw to allow a cottage rental and a cabin rental. So that's my reasoning for asking that the municipality get an expert legal and planning opinion.
Yeah, I think we did get an opinion, but I've been arguing from day one that it should be a zoning and an official plan issue, but it's apparently not, according to a lot of the legal firms. So, well, no, you make some good.
It would be nice, Mayor Ferry, if that information could be shared with the public, because I think the public has no idea what is really going on, I don't think.
Jeff, do you have an opinion?
Yes, I can share if I may. So this has been reviewed by staff, and basically short-term accommodations are permitted in the residential zones of our zoning bylaw. Staff have had discussions with the municipal solicitor who have confirmed this interpretation, and I did discuss this with Christine during a previous discussion. If council would like, I'm happy to elaborate how this is so. The when reviewing compliance, basically what you're looking at is, does the use comply with the permitted uses in that zoning designation? So in the case of residential properties, does a short-term accommodation comply with the use of a single-family dwelling or a seasonal dwelling, which are the main uses on most residential lots? So in reviewing the definitions of the zoning bylaw, which is what you fall back on, they include the following criteria, and they must meet these criteria to comply. That the dwelling contain only one dwelling unit, that the dwelling is designed to be used by one family at a time as a single housekeeping unit, and that the dwelling is used primarily to cook, eat, live, and sleep. So I do understand the concerns today, but this has been reviewed with the municipal solicitor, and short and long-term rentals meet the criteria outlined in the zoning bylaw.
Okay, Christine, I'll allow you to comment there.
Well, there's proof that these are not used as single-family dwellings. And I think that the definition of dwelling unit is being changed for the licensing bylaw. So I have to question why these definitions would be changed that are current definitions in the zoning bylaw, and they will be changed for the licensing bylaw. The definition of dwelling unit seems to be a real different wording than what is in the zoning bylaw. And the dwelling unit, I believe now, I don't have the words in front of me, but says something about the exclusive use of that family. So that it just doesn't make sense. But that, is another reason, I think, for getting an expert legal and planning opinion and sharing those opinions with the public. And a major zoning change, such as changing the zoning in all zones to allow short-term rentals, that sounds pretty major to me, and I would expect some public consultation.
Okay, well, we'll have to have another look at this for sure. Okay, well, any other questions for Christine? Okay, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you for your time.
I'll read the resolution, Murray. Be it resolved, the council acknowledges receipt of the delegation from Christine Legg, local resident, detailing concerns with the proposed short-term rental regulations.
Mover and seconder. Barry and Nancy, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay. How are we for time? Want to take 10 minutes? Okay. Okay, we'll have the fire department report then. Dan?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Thank you very much for having me. This is the basic staff report for the month. As you've had a chance to review, hopefully you can see numbers were fairly comparable to last December. Nice to see that, as far as the rest of this year is going, it did get a little bit quieter for the month of December. Fire department responded to 27 calls altogether. The fire department did not participate in any building inspections or offsite inspections as of December, but as a follow-up, previously I had reported that I had two inspections that had outstanding issues. I'm happy to be able to report that in a follow-up that both of those buildings and businesses were able to come into compliance. So it's nice to be able to have people work well with us. Sorry?
I say that's good.
Yes, yeah, it is very good. Nice to know that people are willing. You know, usually they're not aware of what they should be doing, unfortunately. So it's nice that they are willing to work with us when it comes to it. So I do have final numbers for the year. The fire department attended more than 450 call outs last year. One thing I'd like to comment on is, and it's very nice to be able to say this, although it's different than our long-term average for the last 5-6 years. It's nice to see that fires in general were down. Structure fires, we were down, I think about half of what we would usually have anticipated for a year, which is very nice because those are also long-term commitments for the fire department personnel as well. And then as well, grass fires are certainly down, but part of that I think was reflected upon the fact that we did have a fire ban last year for a significant amount that was imposed by the province even so.
Okay.
Any questions on that report?
Any questions on that resolution then, Mallory?
Be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the fire department report for December 2023.
Mover and seconder, Tammy and Pat, all in favor? Carried. Okay, proposed updates on the fees.
Yes, thank you very much. So collectively, the four municipalities have been working together, and again with the county, with the service delivery review process that started several years ago now. We're collectively continuing to try and find things that allow us to work in similar fashion to our neighboring municipalities. So we're trying to align fees, and as well, the fire chiefs met yesterday. So this will be a report coming forward, but we met yesterday to review our burning bylaws so that we can be working on having things align up with neighbors. So again, we allow burning on one side of the lake, and maybe this neighboring municipality doesn't. So to avoid those conflicts going forward, that's the kind of thing that we're working together on, as well as being able to make purchases collectively. By us all four potentially committing to one company for this year, we might be able to get a bit better price on some of the items we're purchasing. So that's the kind of stuff we're working towards. So that being the case, it's been brought out that usually the annual review of fees and services are coming up shortly. So I'm trying to propose that we go ahead and implement a fee for any installation of smoke alarms or CO alarms. When the fire department attends a location and the location is not up to the fire code for safety, we need to make sure that that building is protected before we leave. And so we are able to provide a battery operated carbon monoxide or smoke alarm or combination unit to that resident in order to for us to be able to walk away and know that they're safe. But at this point, that either comes as a donation where we've been able to very nicely usually get a cost recovery from that, but we want to formalize that we need to have a fee put in place so that there's a way to recover costs, that the municipality or the fire department specifically is not taking on those costs for going forward. People can't count on us just coming in, putting up alarms for them. That it's a law that's been in place for several years now, and everybody should know and be able to be compliant. So it's one of the reasons for suggesting that it be a $100 fee as what we're looking at in the cases that we need to set that forward.
Any discussion on that?
Daniel, when would that $100 fee, would that be from the homeowner or how? Okay.
Sorry, it would be billed to the property owner. And sorry, that is to be $100 per device, because in order to comply with the fire code, they need to have one per level and different within distances to bedrooms and stuff like that. So if we were to put enough to make sure they were compliant to the fire code, then that could be 2 or 3 different units in some cases. Most of the time, they've replaced one and they haven't replaced the other one, and so it's one unit. But just in the event that we get into some of these larger places, it could be costly to put several up to make sure that the occupants of that building are safe. The other thing to mention is that there will be a stipulation added with the invoicing going out that by us putting up or providing them with battery operated smoke alarms, that may bring them into compliance with the fire code, but not the building code. So most buildings, especially newer buildings now, they have a different compliance in the building code than the fire code. So they would require more, and they also have to have hardwired alarms put in, not the batteries. They're not sufficient for most cases. So we'd have to make sure that stipulation is included in that.
So Dan, so if you went to a residence and you had to put in 2 or 3, would that billing kind of flag the building department to go and ensure that they've now met the building code?
We can have it set, pardon me, we can have it set that way that we will notify the building department so they can do a follow if that's necessary. I would need to consult Carl on that and make sure that that's acceptable, and we can find out some means to make that work.
And just, I might have missed it, but what's the framework where you would be doing an inspection? Is it voluntary inspection, or when would you house looking for these?
So at this point, any inspections done within the area are by complaint or request. But we also are called out. So if somebody's alarm is beeping in the middle of the night, and sometimes they can't determine what the problem is, we come out, and if it ends up being they have a low battery, or some of the newer units have an end of life warning, and at the ones with the 10-year batteries, they actually tell you it's time to replace them. And so in order for us to leave at 2 o'clock in the morning, they can't just go to Home Hardware at that time and buy a new alarm. It may be necessary to provide one that gets them through the days until they're able to get that fixed.
So you're saying one of your guys would install the fire alarm then? Is that smoke alarm?
In the event that that's needed, yes. So we do have some elderly residents that wouldn't be comfortable climbing a ladder, and we certainly want to make sure that they're safe before we leave. So that's something that has come up in the past. We've been very lucky. Usually they're quite happy to reimburse us right there for the cost of the alarm. But that's just, there's no guarantees on that, and especially if we end up going into, say, a rental unit. So certainly the tenant is not going to want to pay for something that the property owner should have been responsible for already. So that's my concern going forward.
Do you get many calls to rental units?
Not specifically, no. Calls in general, we do get requests for inspections once in a while, because unfortunately, sometimes it's from the property owner, sometimes it's from the renter, because they're having a conflict and they want somebody to direct them on who's responsible for what, or to make it clear to the other party that, so in the case of an owner, they've gone in and they're trying to do their due diligence to make sure that the alarms are up to snuff. And then the resident is having an issue. Maybe they're smoking in the building and they're setting off the alarms, or they're just, setting off cooking, and they're considering a nuisance alarm activation. And so they remove the battery from it or take the unit down.
Any questions?
Last one, just making sure that we should think about liability, because if one of your guys is going to put it up, so you put up your fire alarm that you're talking about, you guys take off at 3 a.m, at 4 a.m, the fire starts somewhere else in the house, or chimney fire comes back, or whatever it is. Next thing you know, are we on the hook because we installed the smoke alarm was deficient or wasn't in the right place? Again, I'm just playing devil's advocate with liability again on that note. So anyway, just some thought should go into that.
I understand that. So the fire code dictates where these should be. So again, there has to be one per level, and they have to have one within 12 feet of every sleeping quarters as far as the fire code itself for the liability. And again, what I'm saying, we're not bringing up to building code, and we would comment on that. So the building code should already have what they're required. And if they're not compliant there, I don't feel that should be a liability issue on our part. We're doing what the fire code has telling us to do. But I appreciate your question. If there's any concerns on that, we can certainly review that further.
Good question, for sure. Okay, so anything else on that, Dad?
Not on the smoke alarms. No, I do have one other item I would like to suggest that we add to our fees and services bylaw as well. So as well, it's come to my attention that one of our neighboring departments had an incident. And during this fire, they were wearing their full protective equipment, and they ended up into some sort of chemical that had been released on location, and it did some permanent damage to some of their bunker gear. And I'm not even sure if it was just boots or pants or whether their breathing apparatus was included in this. Pardon me. But in the event that something was to become a permanent cost or cause our need to remove this from services, a full complement of PPE for a firefighter can cost in excess of $3,500. A bunker suit alone is almost $3,000. So I feel that in the event that something like this is to happen, we might want to consider being able to send an invoice to the property owner, or that goes to their insurance company, or whichever it happens, with the possibility of being able to recover the cost to replace that equipment.
For sure. Well, for sure. Yeah, I think we agree on that. Good invoice for it. So you do have to replace the suit then?
We could, yes. And so the life of the suit is expected to be 10 years. And if we just happen to have somebody that's had their suit for 3 years, and now we're being told that it won't pass inspection, it's not safe for that firefighter to use, we could very well have lost 70% of that, the life expectancy of that equipment. So.
Okay. And that's because of somewhere he attended a fire, right?
In this case, yes. It was one of the neighboring departments where they ran into this concern, and I believe 2 of their firefighters were affected, but I'm not confirmed whether or not the bunker suits were removed from service or not, but it was definitely brought into question.
Okay. Well, I think you have to use your judgment there. Okay. So, okay, everybody good with that? Okay, resolution then, Mallory?
Okay, be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the report detailing proposed fire department fee updates, and further that council accepts the proposed amendments and directs staff to bring forward an amended fee bylaw for adoption to a future meeting.
Okay, mover and seconder, Nancy and Carm, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Parks and Recreation, Andrea.
Morning. This is a quick little report. I just wanted to let you know that the Fun in February booklets are in. They're available for distribution for people to pick up and take part. The activities in here, there's 30 activities, and they run for the month of February. So locations where people can get these are our municipal office, the Welcome Center, museum, the Dysart branch of the library. I'm going to bring some to a few other spots where they've been requested. And people can take part and just get them out moving around Halibut or Dysart. We have all the activities in here are pretty much Dysart specific. Although some of them can be done elsewhere, and it's indoor, outdoor, free for a little bit of a fee. There's quite a variety. So we're hoping that there's some good participation with this. I know some books have been picked up already at some of the locations. And as I said, it runs from February 1st to February 29th.
It looks like it's going to be a mild February by the look of it.
It's so challenging. Like we were just having a discussion today about the rinks. It's they got the ice going, and then we're in for a mild spell and some rain later this week. And so hopefully we do get some colder nights and cooler temperatures, and we can keep the snow and get the winter activities going.
I see you skipped right over the farmer's market part. Do you don't want to comment on that?
Oh, sorry. I you know what? I figured because it had been done earlier, but if you'd like me to comment, I can. Sorry about that.
It's up to you.
Yeah. I'll obviously staff are going to do whatever council directs. So I'm ready to take an application and to do whatever is needed for it. So I know I mentioned to the park staff that they might be in from 10 to 2 versus 12 to 4. They were happy with that. They liked that. So, but we're open to whatever council suggests.
Okay, thank you. Okay, resolution in on the February thing, Mallory?
Be it resolved that council receives the Fun in February report as information.
Mover and seconder, Nancy and Barry, all in favor? Carried. Okay.
Thank
Building
you.
and bylaw.
So we'll start with the building permit activity report from 2023. So this report contains the final numbers for building permits. I always throw in the number of new dwelling units issued in 2023 comparison to the previous years, 2017 from the year I started here. So again, it's a little bit lower number of permits issued overall than what we've done since the COVID years, 2020. But our construction value is quite a bit higher. And if you look at the number of average daily inspections, the number of inspections at the end of the year was also higher than it typically is, thanks in part to El Nino for providing the warmer weather. If you look at the number of permits, just keep in mind the number of inspections that go along with those building permits. It's not just about the, reviewing the building plans and issuing the permits, about the inspections as well. So something like a septic system is 2 inspections. A new house is basically a minimum of 8 inspections, whereas basically a commercial building is 20 plus inspections. So keeping those in mind with the number of permits that we're actually issuing.
Any questions on that? Okay, resolution then, Mallory?
Be it resolved that council receive the 2023 building permit activity report as information.
Mover and seconder. Carm and Tammy, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Fee changes and administration enforcement.
Yeah, so this is with regards to building permit fees. So it's there's no change to the bylaw itself, just the schedule of fees. So we provide the rationale background to why we're proposing these fee changes, looking at the neighboring municipalities, not just within Haliburton County, but the ones neighboring Haliburton County. You'll notice a big difference in the fees that the other municipalities are charging for building permits. Haliburton County itself has been typically very low in building permit fees. Not that I'm trying to catch up with the other guys, just some provides some rationale as to why we're bringing them up as well. We want to make sure that the building department is paying for itself through building permit fees, and we're not being subsidized by the rest of the tax base for, somebody getting a new cottage somewhere. So those are the, any questions with regards to the rationale. We have to provide a public meeting, which is we're proposing to take place in February, at the February council meeting.
Yeah, I'm sure the other townships are looking at it as well.
They will once we increase our fees. I'm sure they'll look at us to increase their fees.
Nice to be the leader when you're putting things up. Not good. Anyway, have a resolution on that, Mallory?
Be resolved that council receive the proposed changes to the building permit fees and supporting information for the proposed change for the fees for the administration and enforcement of the Building Code Act. And further, that a public meeting is to be held on February 27th, 2024, during the regular meeting of council for the proposed changes to the fees for administration and enforcement of the Building Code Act.
Okay, mover and seconder. Pat and Gary, all in favor? Carried. Okay, now short-term rental draft bylaw.
All right, so this report, it basically identifies the changes from the county's original draft bylaw. I'll go through the changes very quickly, and I'm thinking we can go through the application form that's at the end of this bylaw to show what the actual requirements are for applying for a short-term rental license, and then that can trigger any questions and maybe propose changes if that suits council. So the first change that we made was in definitions. We just removed some of the definitions that were not mentioned in the bylaw and added some definitions like parking space and changed some of the definitions to what's used in the bylaw. Under section 2, prohibition. So this one is, we talked about this change earlier, section 2.4, due to Harcourt Park, we changed that to premises to building. Another bigger change is that section 2.2H, any buildings associated with the STR within the shore road allowance, if it's owned by the municipality. So that was a change made by the county council in their draft bylaw, and that applies to only buildings that are within that shore road allowance, not if you don't own your shore road allowance. So we'd also looking at, a license of occupation as an alternative to purchasing your shore road allowance. And, there might be, we've tossed around the possibility of creating a simplified process of applying for a license of occupation rather than what we currently do for, things like dogs at this point. So it's definitely up to council which way you'd want to go with that aspect of it. Administration and enforcement. So basically just simplified that section. It was very wordy. Licensing requirements, section 4. So application requirements. So simplified the application requirement by creating the application form and just putting in some of the things that the attachments that are required with that application. And we'll go through that application a little later on. Section 5, general obligations of a licensee. So remove the requirement for a parking management plan. And again, I'm not sure how that was introduced into the county, if that was at the direction of county council or if I haven't been able to find another short-term rental bylaw that had a parking management plan. It was difficult for me to understand what a parking management plan is and what it should consist of. So I took that out and just basically left the requirement for, 1 parking space per bedroom.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it's very simplified. It simplifies that requirement. Also, this is where there was requirements for a sign in that bylaw. I included the requirement to put it in the vicinity of the 911 address sign. So that might be a contentious issue. Again, it's up to council whether or not you want to keep that. I just thought should be a unique location for that sign to be in place. Issuance for license of grounds and refusal. So I removed the 90-day renewal date as if a license is only valid for 1 year. So this would essentially allow somebody to continue operating after their license is basically past 1 year, which doesn't make any sense. And it was 90 days. So if let's say you took out your license in June of 1 year, then you can operate for the whole next summer without getting your license because you had all 90 days to renew it. So it didn't make a lot of sense to me. It should be renewed annually at the date of renewal. So that's one change I made for that one. Section 7, license suspension and revocation. So I added a clause 7.1. Basically, it's revoked if the owner fails to provide access. And I replaced the demerit point reference table with 2 sections. So basically, there's the table took up a lot of points or a lot of space in that bylaw, and it was simplified just using 2 paragraphs instead. So no changes to 8, 9, and so 10 entry inspections. So this is where we're providing minimum 15 days notice for inspections, and that's when we're going to the property to complete our inspections. That goes along with their license. So again, they don't need an inspection prior to the license being issued. They get the license issued on the aspects of their application form, and then at some point we will come and do an inspection and verify that everything in their license or application form is what was proposed or what should be there. Obstruction. So section 11, 12, 13, no changes. Demerit points, I added some demerit points, 1 for failure to display a sign, and site does not comply with the bylaw and failed to provide access for inspection. And service of documents. So I added email as a means of service of those documents, and use the wording out of the Building Code Act to facilitate that wording. So with that, so if we pass this bylaw, let's say in February, we're proposing that we don't implement licensing until August when we get Granicus, our third party company that's going to be monitoring and for compliance and taking in the applications. So we don't start that there. We can use that time to basically start our educational component to notify residents, let them know that there is a bylaw in place, and provide additional information with that bylaw, like the sample floor plans, sample site plans, those types of things. We can work on those things in that time. Again, we're recommending a license fee of $500. So if I looked at, Tiny Township and a couple of other townships like Blue Mountains, and their fees were basically 3.5 times what we're charging for a license. And again, the amount that's proposed, so there'd be basically $49,000 for the Granicus company to basically monitor compliance, those types of things. So if we move on to the very last 3 pages of that report, that's the application form itself. So basically, these would be the obligations of the applicant to get a license. So basically filling out the 911 number, the applicant information. So an applicant could be different than the owner. Then the owner information, whether it's a corporation or if there's multiple owners listed on that, make sure all the owners are listed in there. And then there's section D is the responsible person. The responsible person is the one that's going to be called in the event that there's a complaint against the property at 1 o'clock in the morning, whatever, if there's partying going on. So section E, premise location. So this is where we're talking about the number of bedrooms, sleeping areas, maximum occupant load of 2 persons per bedroom, and sewage system approved for how many bedrooms. So the owner's going to have to fill all this information out so that they're cognizant that this is what they're being approved for. Then we have completeness and compliance. So basically, this is where they acknowledge either yes or no in these things. The correct answer is yes. And all these things. So basically that, things like the smoke and carbon monoxide alarms, fire extinguishers and accessible exits, they're all functioning and their parking spaces will be maintained in accordance with the site plan. So they can't use a parking space for, piling up snow if that's what they're, for winter time or those types of things.
Nice and simple. They just tick the boxes there.
Exactly. They tick the box. They acknowledge that they're going to maintain these things. The attachments, that's where we could get to some controversy. So let's go over some of the attachments. So the first one is the insurance. So we just recently reworded the insurance requirement. It used to be requiring commercial insurance. Steve Stone had a discussion with one of the local insurance agents, and basically he sent a revision to the municipalities to put this in the bylaw instead of what was originally there. So it's just some wording change, but again, it's still $2 million insurance. Whether council think that's appropriate or not, that's up to council. The next one is a site plan. So again, this is where it says drawn to scale and fully dimensioned of the STR premise. We can simplify that to the same criteria as what we require for building permits. So again, it doesn't have to be professional. It just has to show everything that's on that property. And again, you want to reference a plan of survey so that you have an idea of what your property looks like and try to draw them kind of to scale. So again, it includes the dimensions, surfacing of parking areas, landscaping. Whether or not we want landscaping on that plan, that's up to council. And all buildings or structures on the land, septic and well locations if applicable. So again, that's one to keep in mind. Wouldn't mind getting some feedback from council, what they'd like to see. So then you have the plan for fire safety, and this is basically your floor plans. So it's going to have your floor plan with what the rooms are named as, and or used as well as the locations of smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms, and fire extinguishers and exits. So they're going to have to show that on a site plan again, floor plan. Floor plan is not difficult to create. It's just basically a box with different boxes within it, room names. We're not looking for anything too professional, just something that is legible. And then we have photos of the front and rear of the STR cottage and the sleeping cabin. So basically that was part of the bylaw itself. Proof of septic system maintenance. So here we've we made this change from what the county required, and we simplified it to either require the sewage system installation report along with the receipt of the most recent septic tank pump out, or results of the most recent sewage system maintenance inspection provided by the municipality. And then there's additional documents if they're applicable. You don't need to necessarily submit these if they're not applicable. And one is authorization for the applicant acting as on behalf of the owner. And the other one is basically if it's a corporation, the articles of incorporation, etc., about that corporation. And sign and date. So that's essentially, you fill in that, submit the application, or put the attachments in, and it's essentially quickly reviewed before a license is issued to make sure that it's all going to work. Again, number of parking spaces. So let's say you have a 4-bedroom cottage, septic is approved for 4 bedrooms. You have and you have parking spaces to accommodate 4 bedrooms. So those types of things would be the quick review before we issue a actual license. Again, $500 license fee is payable at the time of application. And that would go through Granicus, who is going to hopefully be our third party company that reviews, takes in applications through their portal and issues the license. So is there anything that council would like to talk about? And again, just to talk about a couple of other things that are required at the time. So after the license is issued, then you get your sign. So we could talk about that sign. That's essentially it. So there's only one other component, that the copy of the license is posted at the front door of the cottage, within the cottage itself. So basically, with criteria such as the license number, the contact information of the owner, and information with regards to, let's say the cottage is on a non-maintained road by the municipality, it's identified on there with a basically a declaration that this may result in longer wait times for emergency services, those types of things, because it's not on a municipally maintained road, those types of things. So those are just checklists that are provided on that license form that's put inside the cottage itself. So again, I provide a lot of information, but is there any feedback based on that information?
Carl, so when do we jump in then and say, like, is it now that maybe we don't like the signs? I don't really see the need for the signs. So is that now? Do we?
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Voicing our opinion here now on these things? So, well, there's the first one. I don't know why we really need the sign when we have a 911 number and everybody has information like that. So I don't know what everybody else thinks.
We don't need to advertise.
No, that's my opinion. And everybody that they're gonna know that you're renting. Everybody knows now if you're renting on a road, pretty much everybody knows you do it. So anyway, my thought on that one.
Just a simple comment for me. I don't know what relevance the driveway toppings have to do with their landscaping. On that note, I don't think that's
I
necessary.
don't know that we need landscaping.
I know.
So what about driveway topping? So like, again, if it's a grassed area, you don't want people to create a parking space in grassed area maybe, but making sure that it is so parking space is a defined term in the bylaw, and it does talk about it that is a suitable base for the vehicle.
I think that's up to the homeowner, Carl. Like if at my cottage, people park in the grass all the time, as long as they're not parking on the septic, which the septic will be delineated anyway. Well, in my case, but anyways, in terms of the topping, I think that's just up to the homeowner. Like if they're gonna sink in topsoil and a bunch of other stuff and get stuck, the homeowner's gonna hear about it anyway. My own opinion.
Right, but if we're regulating that they have to maintain these parking spaces, and let's say somebody gets stuck, it's like, well, it's
Well, they still gotta have a driveway to get there. On that note, like whether somebody's parking on the grass or parking underneath the maple tree, it's not gonna matter.
Well, they have to delineate where these parking spaces are in their site plan. So this is to prevent people from parking on the road, basically parking off the property. And those are some of the complaints that we do get. And So as long as those parking spaces are delineated on the property, they know where they're supposed to be on the property. That's where that's part of this whole criteria of
Well,
the.
as long as they show that on the sketch and it's not on the septic tank, then it should be all good.
As long as it's on their site plan, I think that's all they need. Doesn't matter what they're parking on.
So we should change the definition of parking space as well.
I think we should. Sure.
Well, the main focus of the parking space is just make sure it's not blocking access of township road or access of an emergency vehicle in the driveway. So if they got 2 or 3 parking spots on grass, then that's fine. As long as it's delineated on the site plan, that's fine.
And if we're gonna do an inspection or whatever, we're gonna go there and look at your plan and say, nope, this is too close to the municipal or too close to septic or too close to the road and it's not acceptable, right? Is that
That's right.
right?
Have we got a criteria wrote out what we're gonna be inspecting during this inspection so people can be ready for it?
It'll be a checklist.
But is that all we're gonna be inspecting? We look for every infraction that they could possibly have.
Well, if it's,
Or is it
if
just
it's
based on-
fire or,
I realize that, but
Yeah.
are we gonna, I don't know. Yeah, how far are we going with this inspection?
So the inspection is going to identify everything that they put on their application form is truthful and they're existing. So things like the parking spaces, that the parking spaces are there, that's what we're trying to look at, right? If you go there in that area that they show as a parking space, as a, as a decline like this, well, you're not going to be parking a vehicle on that, and that's not going to function as a parking space, essentially. Making sure that smoke alarms, fire detector or carbon monoxide detectors are in place, the fire extinguishers are in place, the number of bedrooms are being used as bedrooms. That's basically the extent of the inspection. And they're going to be coupled with our septic maintenance inspection. So there's going to be a septic maintenance inspection at that same time.
So we're not gonna inspect everything. We've got a criteria we're gonna inspect and that's it. That's all we're looking for. We're not.
Correct. Yeah.
Million-
We've been working with that with both Pat and Barry counselors as a working group to determine how this is all going to work. So it's we're keeping basically a checklist per se as to what we're going to be looking at.
Yeah. Thanks.
no, that's important.
And for clarity, we're using a single platform where the applicant puts in their application. They take in the fees that goes to the township, any infractions, they deal with them. Or they call Carl in, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that
And
keeps,
we only go when we hear there's an infraction.
right, okay.
We are, but to start with, it's gonna be, people are gonna upload their stuff into the system and it'll be self-attestation that you're telling the truth. And then if there's a complaint, they'll go out and look at the complaint. But in other words, they're gonna do what Carl said, is they're gonna integrate it with the septic reinspection program and look at areas at a certain time, and we'll try and merge
So
the
this
two
could take
things
months,
together.
years.
Oh,
weeks,
yeah.
Years.
exactly.
Correct. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
This is,
years,
we don't have to do 50 inspections by June 1st.
Correct. Yeah.
No, it's totally up to our timelines and what we can do within our existing
As
staff.
long as you're complying, we may not even get inspected until you have a septic inspection.
Okay, so.
And like you
alright.
say, if you're a bad actor and people are complaining, you're gonna
Well,
get
that was
an
one of the complaints I
inspection
got. How are we gonna
sooner.
get inspected and the license fee before this summer? Right? Everybody's really concerned about
Well,
that.
the onus is on the owner.
Which it should be, because it takes the
Yeah, to fill
responsibility
this
off
out.
us.
And if he fills it out and he ticks all these boxes, the company will then issue the license. And he's got a license until he gets it taken away or unless it's expired.
Does that outfit, the license, the third-party outfit, do they have the bandwidth to handle what's coming up?
Yeah, they've been doing this, they're probably well, it's Carl's next report on the agenda. They've been in this business for almost 15, 20 years, close to 15 anyway. So yeah, they cover Tofino, Toronto, there's like huge infrastructure. We could actually probably at some point do a demo of it, Carl, or something might be helpful for them. I know we've had several demos over the years here at different committee levels, but even if you go online and look at some of the other areas that have the software, it'll give you a good idea of how it works.
Okay. Is there a 2-year grace period? Like evidently, if we're gonna say it's gonna kick off June this year, like, they're not gonna be able to do that, I wouldn't think, my own opinion, but is there a year where people can get this in play, or what's the rollout process coming up?
It'll be, that's up to council. So we're hoping to pass the bylaw before the spring, and then basically educate residents that there is a bylaw in place. Once a third party Granicus gets in operation, then they'll check for compliance. So they basically mine data from these advertising sites like Airbnb, Vrbo, and determine which companies have or which properties actually have Airbnbs that are not licensed, and then they will provide us with that list of properties that are not licensed, and we'll deal with them accordingly.
Okay, good.
So it's voluntary to start with.
Yeah, so
Voluntary
basically
to start
until
with,
August,
the
yeah.
Platform is in place, people can start applying for their licenses.
Yeah.
It's those that just neglect to do so for a prolonged period of time. Then someone will reach out to them to say, hey, you need a license.
How would you know who's
Well,
not licensed?
Because, well,
they're
Airbnb
registered.
All Airbnb and VRBOs are all online.
But just Joe Blow Public is renting to his neighbor, like this lady here, let's say, wants her Airbnb. How would we ever know about that person?
Somebody complains.
And the next thing, how are we gonna handle this, the tax? And
So that's not a component of this
They
at
collect the
all.
tax.
So that
who collects the tax?
The same people that do the applications collect the tax. And
Okay,
they collect
but
the fees.
What I'm saying is, do we want to charge the tax? Like, are we, the VAT tax is, and
No,
what happens?
The county's gonna pass it, so.
The county's gonna pass,
And
so,
it's, well, it isn't, but it's a major revenue for Dysart. Like, it's a lot of money.
If
We
50% of
desperately
it
need money.
goes to a tourism body, which the county will have to create like a separate entity to be able to use it for tourism marketing purposes, and the other 50% can come to the municipality to support tourism related projects,
Even
infrastructure,
roads,
which
we can
could
even
be
put it on
roads.
roads. Money. It's a lot of money.
Do we have a say in the percentage, or is that gonna be just the way it is?
That's up to your council. So far, they've been discussing
4% is pretty the norm for the mat tax.
Okay, I'm just thinking in my own mind, we're gonna charge a $500 application fee. Is that per year? Is that a one-time deal?
No, there's an annual fee, but I don't know it's completely been, until everyone agrees, I think it's proposed at 500.
Carl, is that a one-time fee, or is that every year that we gotta reapply, or what's the?
there's an additional report that will be coming to council with regards to that mat tax. It's being developed by the county at this time. I don't have any information on it, unfortunately. So it has nothing to do with what we're doing today, other than there might be a mat tax applied at some date in the future.
I think he's asking about the actual licensing fee, though, the $500. Is it 500 annually? And
Yeah,
then
500 annually, yes.
So they're gonna pay 500 annually and then a 4% tax on top of that. Is that correct? Who determines the value of the 4%? Like who, I know it's 4%, but is that based on rental revenues? So does somebody gotta come along and say, yeah, I rented I made $10,000 gross this year. Here's,
it's all tracked in the system, in the platform.
I see. Okay. I'm just thinking if the fees collected monitor and look after the third party, a certain percentage, the mat tax comes back to us because of, road usage and or garbage, which, to me is a tough dart to throw, because essentially if the house is designed for so many people and sewage systems designed for so many people and designed for dumps and all this other stuff, are we really increasing the capacity or the usage of our utilities around Halliburton? But that's me running my mouth off right now. So anyway, I do believe there's something, but I don't know if 4% is the number.
I don't know that for sure either, but it's just pretty typical.
So the only way we're gonna know how much these people take in is if they go through a platform. So if it's somebody that just rents for over the word of mouth.
Say 2 weeks of the year.
But if they rent word of mouth and it's always just a cash deal, we'll have no idea what their mat tax actually should be.
No, we won't. If they want to work for cash under the table, yeah,
we could,
Once they get a complaint, proven that they're operating as
Yeah, and there is some of that going on, you can be sure.
There's a lot of that going on now. Yeah.
And I think that's one reason the feds are looking at it. It's a huge loss of HST.
Okay, so we don't have to deal with the mat tax because it's up to you at the county level, right? Like, we don't have any say in it,
It's going to come to a
It's gonna come here,
future.
but it's gonna
council
come
meeting.
here.
but the hope
But
is
not
that
yet.
we all do the same thing, or it's gonna cause a bit of a, it's a little different than the shoreline bylaw.
Are there any other items that council would like to discuss with regards to the draft bylaw or process?
Sure, I can.
Sure.
I have a couple of things. So, on, there's just a couple of little words that I'll start with. If I can find them now. 5.6, it says that the following information shall be posted in a prominent place. That means that it's up on the wall, but you have, I think 3 or 4 things that have to be posted on top of the wall. It'll look like the kids have been there with everything posted. So is it possible that that could be posted or inside, like a binder? Lots of, the short-term rentals have binders with everything in it. So.
Yeah. One of the things that we can do is prepare information that people can download off our website and put in the binder. So things like the noise bylaw, renters code of conduct, those types of things. So we haven't even developed the renters code of conduct or the licensee's code of conduct yet. There are things to do before before we start enforcing the bylaw. But those types of things we can have as downloadable information. For sure. And the license itself should contain everything within A, B, C, and D, E. Yeah, so again, there's only a few documents that are going to be basically required that they download to keep on site somewhere so that renters can see a copy of our noise bylaw, whatever.
Okay, just a posted, it just sounds like it's gonna be like a posted, it's all over the walls.
Yeah.
So if it was maybe posted / in the binder, or I don't know what the exact word is.
Yeah, it's not the intent that they put everything, they basically post the whole noise bylaw on their wall or anything like that. We could look at wording around that, for sure.
Okay, and 5.2 with children under, or 2 and under. Children under the age of 2 shall be counted as an individual. I looked through and I'm guessing that this is coming from, I don't know where the under 2 is coming from because I could only find under 13 and under. And I could only find that if it's a septic related where it's coming from, it's one person is allowed basically 275 liters of water a day in a house, where I don't think that a 2-year-old would be having 275 liters of water. So I feel if it's up to us that we make that number, or is that a set thing too?
I know this was discussed at the county for quite some time, and I don't know if Murray recalls if Mr. Mayor remembers any of that conversation, why they ended up at why they included that 2-year-old information in the bylaw itself.
I know we spent a lot of time on it. We did, and really didn't get I don't think there was a real good reason why 2 is the same as an adult, in my opinion. But
Wasn't it just basic, to Tammy's point, wasn't it based on the septic requirements that a person is a person and you're basing the occupancy on septic approval?
they would be using the septic the same as probably an adult.
Yeah, I just don't understand why they include that children under the age of 2 shall be counted as an individual. Yeah, why even reference it?
8 or something. Yeah. Well, we can have another talk about that.
So I think, I don't know whether it just needs to be deleted or,
Or moved up to 13 or
yeah,
12 or
like,
something.
But we could probably take that section out of there because if you don't
That would be great.
mention it, then it's essentially that person is an individual still. I don't think there's a reason to actually mention it in the bylaw. I don't see any reason why it would need to be mentioned.
Yeah, I got, are you done, Tam?
Yeah, oh, you can go.
Okay. I'll go quick here, so I know you want to get back. So the site plan, she was just it seems to be a big concern about what people have to do. So Carl, you'd be happy with something like similar to what we have to do for our septic plans, then, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And okay, which is really fairly easy going and fairly simple. Can we just make sure that's clarified in the wording there somehow?
So we can take off the requirement to have it to scale, and basically we would provide a sample site plan that shows what's required on it, and even have what we provide to the septic installers with regards to what we want for on a site plan. Actually have a checkbox list of things that you should have on the site plan, and as they put it on, they can check them off, those types of things, just to make it a little simpler. But yeah, if that's the desire of council, we can definitely simplify that site plan requirement to the same criteria as what we'd issue for a building permit.
Well, Carl, would you not have something like that already on file with having the building permit at the time?
Not necessarily. It depends on when the permit was issued, and like there could be several other accessory buildings that were added. So those types of things. So we'd want to make sure that all the accessory buildings are included on there as to what their use is and whatever else.
Anything else for Carl on this side? Okay,
I do have, and I just can't find it in this bylaw, so maybe it's not, but, where it says that if you have a second dwelling, on the property, it's basically saying that, you can't rent the smaller accessory building, but you can rent the main one, and you can rent them together, but you can't rent just the small one. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah. So there's if you're talking about the private cabin, the sleeping cabin, yeah. So that is within the definition of sleeping cabin, where it can't be rented out separately from the main building. There's also requirements about additional residential dwellings or accessory residential dwellings, which are permitted on some lots, but you cannot rent out those independently. If you're renting out the property, essentially, not an individual building on the property. That's essentially the criteria for short-term rental.
And that's where you meet the criteria that Jeff talked about earlier as being a family unit within the rental.
Yeah, so both places could be rented out by the same people. It's just that the original or the main building, I guess you could just rent the main building.
yeah, but not the auxiliary building.
And if the owners lived in the small building, they could rent the main building.
No.
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 Can't be accessory.
Yeah, so basically where you have a property, there's always a principal use, a main use of that property, which is in residential is the cottage, right? Or your house. Then you have accessory buildings such as sometimes you're allowed an additional residential dwelling. So we don't want the additional residential dwelling to be used as an STR. We had that conversation at the last time I brought this to council. Council decided no, we shouldn't allow those because those should be for long-term use, long-term rentals, right? So to increase our housing stock. So that's the only time that we're limiting what you can have as a short-term rental. Is if you have a second dwelling. We don't want those used as short-term rentals.
Is there anywhere in here in all of this that that we know that this isn't going to be made for everybody, and that there's going to be unique situations that they can come and we can look at it individually?
So there's the appeal process.
Appeal.
So the county is going to be the appeal committee essentially. So if you don't, so let's say we issue the license and then we revoke it because you don't comply with the bylaw, or you accumulate too many demerit points. You can appeal that and to the appeal committee, and hope and maybe get your license back, or with certain conditions, those types of things. So there is a process that you can appeal the decision made by myself.
I'm glad you brought that up about the demerit points. Why is the demerit points there in the first place? Is it we have to have it and it's at the county level?
So no, so the demerit points are so if you accumulate 3 demerit points, then you lose your license. So the demerit points are identified in the bylaws to what those demerit the processes are, and the actual demerit point associated with the infraction.
So, but sometimes you can get 3 demerit points depending on what it is. So that means that if you get 3 demerit points for, there's one, obstructing an officer, 11.0, has 3 demerit points. So if you do that,
You lose your license.
you lose your license. But I thought that if you didn't get a license, you lost your license.
Well, so if you have demerit points, you cannot, if you have 3 demerit points, you cannot obtain a license. So if we basically tell you, if we go to the property and we find out that you're operating as an STR, then that's essentially 3 demerit points right off the bat. So you
And
cannot
can
apply
appeal
for a
the-
license.
You can appeal the demerit.
Exactly, yeah,
And you can never get rid of your demerit points.
correct.
Well,
Well,
what if, yeah, when you can't start over, you have to sell your place and start again, or does it demerit parts?
No, I think they expire after a while.
But when it doesn't say that they expire.
You have to reapply if you, and you go to the end of the line, quite frankly.
You
You won't go
reapply,
on next, first guy online again.
but there's no,
So every new license, Marie, you get.
So it's essentially the way the bylaw is
If
made
you-
out.
If it's because of demerit points and you lose your license, you're gonna have to apply again. And there's 10 people ahead of you and you'll be number 10. And that's not a big deal, really.
There actually isn't that process. You can't reapply it. Once you lose your license, you cannot regain your license unless you go through an appeal.
Yeah, you gotta go through the appeal, so. And so you should. You didn't lose it for usually one reason.
Carl, I didn't, we're gonna talk about this again later on down the road, which is good, but in regards to, say a car at one of my rentals is parked out in the road, I lose 1 demerit point. Does that heal itself over time, like a driver's license, where you get another demerit point back after a year, or no?
No, there's no process to get those demerit points back.
Okay.
We could put a process in place.
Right.
But that's where you can appeal it. Like, let's say you go years between demerit points. It's like, well, that could be heard by the appeal committee, and basically they can take that into consideration and say, well, yeah, we could bring you back down because, yeah, it's.
Now, is there an opportunity, Carl, if say to Councillor Casey's suggestion there, somebody was parking on the road, if there's a responsible person that somebody can contact with a complaint came in that his car's parked on the road, and he could get in touch with the owners within 5 minutes and get the car moved. Is there any consideration for that immediate resolution of a problem? So before it goes on to a demerit, if the person is willing to rectify within a certain amount of time or something like that?
Yeah, so something like the car parking the road, I think there's not an actual demerit for that, but there'd be a demerit for an order. So if we go there and there is basically a car parked on the side of the road, we can issue an order. We don't have to issue an order. We can issue an order, or we can educate.
Okay.
So it's not like we're going out there to get rid of these STRs. We see the benefit in them. It's the ones that are constant
Offenders.
exactly.
Yeah.
That might lose their demerit points.
Okay, thanks, Carl.
So Marie, one other question I got, maybe you can answer this. I've had a lot of questions on when the homeowner's gonna get fined for whatever. Should that not go to the short-term rental user, not the homeowner?
Yeah.
Like I had a guy last summer, for example, and he said that they told him he had a list, just like Tammy said, a binder, this is the dump, this is this is that. There's a full fire ban on, no fireworks, don't use the boats. And he says, next thing you know, my neighbors phoned me, they got the fireworks, so they phoned the fire department. Of course, there was nobody there, they phoned the office. So the next day, Dan called him and said, you know, we would have fined you, the cottage owner, because they were using fireworks. He said, well, there was all of my documentation. They were told, they were warned, they had all the.
Exactly why you need that $1,000 deposit.
Okay,
So you pay that fine with his money.
okay. Cause like he was all concerned that, you know, I did my due diligence. And even when the responsible neighbor come over and said, hey, guys, you can't do that, they basically told me to go to hell, and they kept on doing what they were doing.
Need the deposit to say, okay, all you have to take it out of your $1,000.
Okay.
Okay, can you move
Okay,
along?
I just got come, if this, whatever goes through, can we have a monthly report then on, certain things so that we know where the numbers are? You know,
Yeah, so part of this Granicus company, they're going to provide monthly reports with regards to complaints, those types of things to us that we can put into a council report and update council.
what's your list though? If, that you got from us to change? Carl,
Sorry?
yeah, that's what I want to know, what's at the next meeting. Like, you're gonna come back with what feedback you got now?
Correct, yes.
Come back, so what do you have for feedback from
So
us?
so the feedback is going to be the signs. So we're going to basically remove that requirement of the signs being posted at the front entrance. There is the requirement of so I get provided with a list from Tamara. She's the one taking notes.
No, I am, I can.
Oh, it's Mallory. Okay.
Yeah.
I do get a list of the things to change.
Yeah. So remove a requirement for signs. Council doesn't want to include landscaping or servicing a parking area in site plan. And wants the wording of this, wants the site plan requirements to be more simple, similar to the building permit requirements. Move the requirement for hard surface on parking spaces, which will change the definition of a parking space. What else do we have? Remove 5.2, which notes children under 2, just take that section out. Yeah, the other thing I wanted council to consider, sorry, while I'm talking, is the license of occupation process. Right now, the way the bylaw is worded, and Carl, you can correct me if I'm wrong, perhaps we need to make it more clear that people can apply for a license of occupation. Because it kind of sounds right now that they can't rent out if it's partially on municipal land. And Jeff, you're there too, right? I see your black screen, but I just want to make sure that you're here for the meeting too. Maybe not. I think Jeff's here. He is. There he is. So
That's gone to the county again for another legal opinion. So that'll be dealt with.
sorry, Murray, I can't hear you.
Mike,
What are you saying?
The county lawyer for another opinion, so we'll know more about that next month.
Yeah, so we could put in the bylaw something about applying for a license of occupation. So for example, that you cannot rent out if part of the structure is on municipal road allowance unless you get permission from the municipality. So that gives you that next step.
Simple, yeah, that's simple. That's a good way to do it.
Okay.
Okay? Okay. Can we have the resolution then?
Yep, I can read the resolution. So be it resolved that council receive the short-term rental draft bylaw report as information. And further that staff, further that council directs staff to prepare a final draft of the short-term rental bylaw for consideration at the February council meeting.
Okay. Mover and seconder, Barry and Nancy, all in favor? Gary? Okay. And you have another one? Short-term rental monitoring is.
Sorry. Yeah, the next report. Yes. So short-term rental monitoring and compliance solutions. So this is basically the RFP that the county put out. The results of that RFP. Again, we had one submission, and that was by Granicus. it was the same company that gave us the demonstration at the county. When we all got together with the other municipalities at the county, Granicus gave us a demonstration of what can be provided. We've seen it several times here at the municipality as well, with regards to what they're able to provide. So the RFP had certain deliverables, and you can review the deliverables on that on my report. Some of them had to do with that MAT tax, which isn't a component on this the proposed STR bylaw, but you know, they're the ones that are going to be as the second page of it, the 24/7 24/7 customer service hotline. So they're going to be the ones taking in the complaints even after hours and notifying the responsible person to act and deal with it. The bylaw requires that responsible person act within basically an hour of getting that complaint. Those types of things. So basically the submission, they offer a subscription. Granicus offers a subscription to basically provide this service, and we would be paying annually. It's approximately $44,000 a year over the next 3 years. The first year is going to be the most expensive because there's basically a setup cost and those types of things. So that's essentially what they're proposing, and the county has requested that we bring this forward to council so that they can support the awarding of the contract to Granicus Canada Holdings ULC.
And that'll be coming back again next month, I believe.
The approval for the Granicus is a separate thing, so we can advise the county that Dysart has approved that company, and then they can get set up, because it's going to take them a
6
while,
months.
6 months to get everything set up and running. And I think that's why Carl mentioned it's probably looking like summertime before you're actually getting people onto an online platform. So once things are settled, they can use this opportunity to do the education out there, and to also, if there's people that need to do a license of occupation or something, they can start preparing. They can know what's coming at them, so they can start gathering that information and doing their site plans, get them up at time. Am I right in that?
Yes. Yep.
Summary?
Okay, so that'll be back again. We're seeing everything 2 or 3 times, which is good. Have the resolution in, Mallory?
Okay, be it resolved that council receive the short-term rental monitoring compliance solutions request for proposal results report as information. And further that council approve awarding Granicus Canada Holdings ULC the contract for short-term rental and compliance solutions.
Mover and seconder. Pat and Carm, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Septic.
Whoops, opening the wrong one. There we go. Yeah, so basically this Bree's not here today. She's on vacation in the sunny south. So again, this is just a report about the area 4, which is this local area, completing the results of the septic system. So if you scroll down, it's a long report, just gives a lot of background behind the report. But the interesting information is starts on page 9 of 15, where it talks about the actual the lakes themselves and breaks them out, each lake with regards to the high, medium, and low risk results of what we found, what we determined. So if you're interested in reviewing that information, that's where you find that. Further on, it talks about the incomplete inspection. So basically there were 58 properties that we did not inspect. And that was because we could not set up a time with those owners. So those would be the first ones on our list next year. And it would be double the inspection fee because it's not within that current year. So there were, talks about the results, like how many septic permits this program generated directly, and as a result there's a significant amount, so 104 were direct result of the septic maintenance program out of 222 septic permits. Septic evaluation process, so again, if somebody can go through the septic evaluation permit process to decommission a bedroom, let's say if they're not in compliance, so that's a simplified process. System failures, so how many actual failures? There were 99 properties with high risk, so basically a failed system. There were 20 metal tanks found that were replaced. And again, our criteria for metal tanks is if it shows signs of corrosion, it has to be replaced. They all do. Pump outs, how many systems had to be pumped out in relation to the program, and that the criteria on that is if it's more than 1/3 full of sludge and scum, if there's no septic use permit on file, if it was prior to 1980 installation, those are all the requirements for having it pumped out. And then we talk about 2024 inspections. So what are we going to do differently? So again, we're going to be incorporating STR inspections possibly if we start doing that process next year, as well as the whole lake health assessment inspection that we're going to be completing. Any questions on the results of that report?
No, I think it's good that some of the council's meeting you, Carl, and we're getting some progress made on the process here. I think it's a pretty good report. I'm surprised that the Drag Lake with them, all the problems they've got with bad septics, but interesting. $78 or something. High number. Okay, any questions? Resolution?
Be it resolved that council acknowledges the receipt of the septic maintenance inspection program 2023 year-end report.
Mover and seconder. Pat and Nancy, all in favor? Carried. Okay, bylaw update.
Yeah, so I'll do the bylaw update as well. Haley's on a course right now, so she is not able to present that. So essentially, it's just a typical report for January 2024. And so deer feeding, we've had complaints for deer feeding. Yeah, otherwise, any questions on the report itself?
Any questions? Okay, resolution?
Be resolved that council accepts the bylaw update report for November 22nd, 2023 to January 16th, 2024 as information.
Mover and seconder. Carm and Tammy, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. So we'll bring Dave and Rob in here and we'll do public works before lunch. And we'll go right into finance. Walt should get home in Toronto in time to come to council. I should text him, tell him to get in here. At the speed he drives, I don't think he will, huh? Okay. Okay, Rob. Or Dave, who's doing this first? Letter.
I'll go first. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a letter of support from AORS, the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors. It's simply asking that we support them lobbying the provincial government to have an accredited municipal equipment operator course, which, in principle, we do stand behind. It'll certainly save on our training costs if these people come trained as they enter the workforce. So it is needed.
We want to support that.
Yes.
Okay. Mover, do you want to have that, Mary? You give the
Yeah, it's a long resolution, so buckle up. Okay, whereas municipal public works departments from across the province of Ontario provide invaluable services to our communities, ensuring the health and safety of all residents. And whereas if it was not for our municipal public works employees from across the province of Ontario maintaining our public road systems, our communities would not be able to function, as emergency personnel could not respond to calls, school buses could not get our children to school, residents would not be able to get to work, school or appointments and many more basic functions would not be able to happen. And whereas municipal public works departments are already feeling the impacts of a labor shortage, which would only be exacerbated over the next 3 to 5 years, which would cause levels of service in municipalities, which will cause levels of service municipalities are able to provide to ensure the health and safety of our residents to decrease. And whereas there is currently no provincial-wide course that properly trains potential municipal public works employees, specifically relating to municipal heavy equipment. Therefore, be it resolved that Municipality of Dysart et al. Supports the work of the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors to develop a municipal equipment operator course to address this issue, and that the Municipality of Dysart et al. Calls on the Province of Ontario's Ministry of Labor, Training, Immigration, and Skilled Trades to fully fund the municipal equipment operator course in 2024 through the Skills Development Fund, and that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Minister of Labor, Training, Immigration, and Skilled Trades, MPP Lori Scott, and the Association of Ontario Road Supervisors.
That'll likely get done in a hurry. Okay. You've heard the resolution. Any discussion? I think it's motherhood. Mover and seconder. Nancy and Carm, all in favor? Carried. Okay, roads report, December.
Good afternoon, council. Sorry, can you hear me?
Go ahead, Dave.
Yep. So my roads maintenance report for December 2023. So we obviously been ongoing plowing and sanding operations. Patching when needed. We got snow removals, so we did removals December 7th. And safety devices, we installed no parking signs on the new sidewalks at Maple and Sunnyside. And no exit sign installed at Guilford Street.
Okay. Any discussion on that? So do we have any idea, how many, it doesn't seem to matter what the winter's like. You seem to plow about the same amount every time regardless anyway, don't you? Even though there's.
Yeah, well, it's obviously with the change in temperatures and freezing rain and up and down and removals in between. So yeah, operations is ongoing at all times, it seems like.
Yeah, for sure. Any questions of Dave or Rob? Well, that's good. The roads are pretty good shape. Until
Thank you.
In the spring.
Yeah, the grader will be busy.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, resolution then, Mallory?
Okay. Be resolved that council receives this report outlining roads maintenance activities for December 2023 as information.
Mover and seconder, Pat and Tammy, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. We'll see you later in the day. Okay, so we'll shut down.
Oh, Rob has a report.
I got one more. Yeah, so in my last report, Mayor, I'm seeking approval to award some engineering work to Tulloch Engineering.
I'm sorry, Rob.
For the replacement of the Redstone Brook Bridge. So they've proposed an upset lump sum fee of $108,500. So Tulloch has done some bridge work for us over the years. They've replaced the bridge deck on the Paddy's Bay Bridge, the Coleman Lake Road Bridge, and they were involved in the emergency bridge placement at Koshlong. They were also the only engineering company to bid for the feasibility study in 2022 for the replacement of the Redstone Brook Bridge. So staff are recommending that they kind of carry the ball to the finish line on this.
Did they give you an estimate then?
Yeah, it's an upset limit of $108,500. It's less than 9% of the total project fee.
Okay.
Is that going to be a bridge or a culvert, Rob?
That's going to be a bridge. It's going to be a similar bridge to what you see on top of Koshlong right now. It's going to be a steel modular 2-lane.
Lifespan on those?
75 years.
All right.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, resolution now.
Okay. Be it resolved that council retain Tulloch Engineering for engineering services related to the replacement of the Redstone Brook Bridge for an upset limit lump sum fee of $108,500 excluding HST, and that council authorize the clerk and mayor to execute an agreement with Tulloch Engineering for the work.
Okay, mover and seconder. Nancy and Carm, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Hey, Barb, we'll just start with you. You've got a string of resolutions there, so we'll just have you comment on.
Okay, so good afternoon. The first report here is bylaw 2024-02, being a bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy and to provide for interest and penalty to be applied on taxes. So the interim bills will be rated at 50% of property taxation from the previous year, being 2023. And the interim due dates are 2 installments. So first due date is March 13th and April 10th is the second due date.
Okay. That's consistent with before?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Okay, Mallory?
Okay, be it resolved that bylaw 2024-02, being a bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy to provide for interest and penalty to be applied on taxes, be read a first, second, and third time, pass, sign, and the corporate seal attached thereto.
Okay, mover and seconder. Pat and Barry, all in favor? Okay. Boring bylaw.
Yes, so this is a bylaw to authorize borrowing from time to time to meet current expenditures during the fiscal year ending December 31st of 2024. So the municipality may borrow up to 50% of revenues for the current year up to September 30th. Beyond that, they can only borrow 25% of the current year estimated revenues. So basically, this is a cash flow activity, and it's just to bridge for the collection of property taxation. And so currently the municipality does have an operating line of credit of $1.5 million, and there is no money drawn on that. We have sufficient cash base to keep us going for the first tax due date.
So it's just a safety belt. Yeah. Okay.
That's correct.
Resolution?
Okay, be it resolved that bylaw 2024-03, being a bylaw to authorize borrowing from time to time to meet current expenditures during the fiscal year ending in December 31st, 2024, be read a first, second, and third time, pass, sign, and the corporate seal attached thereto.
Mover and seconder. Carm and Nancy, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Benefit
So
renewal.
the next report, the next report is the 2024 benefit renewal and benefits covering short-term, long-term disability and health and dental. So there was a 12.59% decrease on short-term and long-term disability, and there was a 5.74% increase on health and dental. The combined premium decrease equates to 2.77%, or $11,216.
That's a good news story. Okay. Resolution, Mallory?
Be it resolved that council approve the employee benefit coverage proposal from Desjardins and Green Shield for renewal effective January 1st, 2024.
Mover and seconder. Nancy and Barry, all in favor? Carried. Okay, we're not so lucky on the next one.
No, keeping on the topic of insurance, the 2024 general municipal insurance renewal saw an increase of 10.3%, or $38,437. Breaking it out under municipal general liability coverage, there was a 5% increase. Automobile coverage, a 29% increase, and that there is reflecting a 20% rate increase due to unfavorable claims history. And then we have blanket property limit coverage, which has increased 11.8%. So I will note these increases are not isolated to municipal operations. All commercial operations are experiencing similar challenges.
Not good. Okay, resolution?
Be it resolved that council accepts the municipal insurance program renewal proposal from Marsh Canada Limited effective January 1st, 2024 to January 1st, 2025.
Mover and seconder. Carm and Barry, all in favor? Carried. Okay, check summary.
Yes, so total disbursements for December 2023 were $5,027,357, and it certainly reflects the fourth quarter transfer payments to the county and the boards of education. Those two payments alone were $3,583,000.
Okay, education. Okay, resolution, Mallory?
Be it resolved, the council acknowledges receipt of the December 2023 check summary.
Mover and seconder. Nancy and Tammy, all in favor? Carried. Okay, quarterly metered sewage.
So this here reflects the fiscal year of 2023, and surprisingly, the metered revenue usage is pretty well similar to 2022. They're within hundreds of dollars of difference, so it looks like our usage has normalized.
Okay, resolution?
Be it resolved, the council acknowledges receipt of the quarterly meter sewage readings report for the period ending December 31st, 2023.
Mover and seconder. Pat and Tammy, all in favor? Carried. Okay, investments.
Yes, so back in 2022, the municipality had purchased some GICs, and two of those GICs have come up for renewal, the 1-year term. The one GIC is funds from our general operating. We had redeemed $2.1 million, and on the reserve funds, we had redeemed over $1 million. So now staff have met with CIBC and CIBC Wood Gundy to look at options to reinvest that money. And so we've since learned that if we entertain CIBC Wood Gundy, we can get some competitive rates. So looking at a 1-year term, we can come in at 5.41%, a 2-year term at 4.95%, and a 5-year term, which is actually a linear bond at 5%. So staff are recommending to reinvest this money and sign up with CIBC Wood Gundy. Historically, it has been with CIBC, but those rates are discounted. And so one of the other benefits, just one moment. I apologize. So staff are looking to reinvest the money with CIBC Wood Gundy. And so the potential interest rates on a 1-year term would be $59,889. 2-year term would be $101,450. And a 5-year term would be $250,000. I correct myself on the number in the report there. On a linear bond, it's not accumulated interest, but you do have the ability to cash out early and not lose out on any of the interest. So one of the advantages of reinvesting back into CIBC or any sort of instrument is that the surplus funds sitting in a bank account are at the prevailing rate, and they're subject to regular fluctuations. And typically these rates are discounted and not as competitive as the GIC rates.
So wouldn't be much advantage to go beyond 2 years, would there?
Well, if you want to lock in for 5 years, you're guaranteed that 5% year over year. You do have the option to cash out early if rates should.
What's the penalty for cashing out?
There is no penalty.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I guess we might as well take it for as long as we can do it. Yeah, it's a good rate. Okay, so I think is a consensus we lock in for 5? Yeah,
And that would just be on the reserve funds for the $1,053,000.
yeah,
penalties, I don't see why not?
yeah, why
The
not?
others would be over a 1 and 2 year term.
I don't know why not, like,
I agree. We can get out anytime.
Yeah, if there's no penalty, let's go with the 5%.
because, yeah.
Yeah.
So the money for the the property we're closing in March, where's that coming from?
We're looking at borrowing that money.
What rate would we be borrowing that at?
Right now, I've got that budgeted at 5%. I am doing some research on that, and that seems to be roughly where the rates are coming in.
It's a lot. Okay, that's, we still got a month or so to figure that out, right?
That's right.
It's pretty steep. What does the people you're dealing with, what are they loan, like a 1-year loan? What are they asking for? What are they paying? What are they charging for that?
That rate I don't have as of yet, but I can research that and report back to council.
Yeah. Okay, if you would. Then we
Okay.
can talk about that.
Are you also, like you mentioned, a 1 year? The budget did consider a 10-year on that particular asset. Are
I'm
you
hoping-
interested in other terms as well?
Well, I hope it doesn't take us 10 years to develop that property. So I'm thinking that if we can get a consultant or get somebody to lay it out for us and get it on the market. Because we need the housing and we need lots of things. Hopefully we got something to offer within a year here. So I don't know whether we'd want to take it for 10 years or not.
As long as you can get out of the mortgage, Murray, that's all without a penalty. Like, to me, I would think 5 years would be the longest, but again, for clarity, we're gonna get a better payment or interest rate if you longer you amortize it, if
Yeah.
that's the case, so. I hate saying let's talk about it at the next meeting, but maybe.
Well, yeah, but we could maybe find out what the 5 and 10-year rates are.
Sure, and assuming that interest rates, I hope, are gonna get cut in the
Yeah.
spring here at some point, then it might be a better deal versus.
Yeah.
In a month, maybe.
Okay with that, Barb? Do you understand what we're doing there?
So if you just want to reconfirm that, please.
Yeah, and check on the rates if we borrow for 5 years or 10 years. And again, the penalty for getting out.
On the loan rates.
Yeah, on the loan rate.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, I'll
Resolution.
bring a report back to the next council.
okay, thank you. Valerie?
Are we ready to read the resolution as it was written in the report?
Sure.
Okay. So be it resolved that council receive the staff report for the reinvestment of guaranteed income certificates, and further that council directs staff to reinvest the redeemed GIC amounts with CIBC Wood Gundy as follows. 1, general operating funds at $1,107,000 for a 1-year term. 2, general operating funds at $1 million for a 2-year term. And 3, reserve funds at $1,053,500 for a 5-year term.
Okay. I thought we were putting them all in for 5 years, but maybe I missed wrong. So we got one for 1 year, one for 2, and one for 5, right?
Yeah. So basically what we're doing here is we're levering. So as they come up for renewal, we can revisit our cash flow needs. And if there's availability, then we can reinvest that
Put them
money
back in, okay,
at the will of council. Yeah.
okay, I understand. Okay, Mallory?
Just, we just need a mover and a seconder for that one?
Yes, we need a mover and a seconder, Carmen and Pat, all in favor? Carried, okay,
Okay. So
okay,
the next report here is, this is just bringing back council remuneration, so, with Walt being at, Roma and it often taking place during our council meetings, I thought it might be a good idea to add in that if a member of council is on official municipal business where the schedule was out of their control, that we probably shouldn't be taking a cut from their pay if they miss a council meeting because of it. Of course, Walt was able to come in the morning this morning, but just in the future. And I just wanted to see what council thought of that idea.
yeah, I think that's fair, I mean, he's there representing the county and us, so.
Exactly, and it's
You
not like
feel
you can
like-
tell them to change the date, right? So this is that's the exact circumstance. So in the future, if that happened, if you're going to a conference or training that was necessary and or you're representing us, you would be authorized by the mayor, so Murray, to miss the council meeting basically, and then just let staff know as well, if that came up.
I think
Okay.
that makes sense, yeah.
Okay, so I'll read the resolution. Be it resolved that bylaw 2024-04, being a bylaw to establish remuneration rates for members of council, you're at a first, second, third time, pastime, and the corporate seal attached thereto.
Okay, mover and seconder, Pat and Barry, all in favor? Carried. Okay. Thank you, Barb. And by the way, thank you, staff, for doing a good job on the budget. I know you all worked hard on it, so it's good.
I'll pass it along.
Yeah, great, very good. Okay, planning and information, Jeff and Chris.
Good afternoon. Chris will take the first file, which is the returning file from this morning's public meeting.
Thank you. So we heard this, the application this morning for the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment. No concerns from council or issues raised. Therefore, the recommendation as provided would be appropriate.
Okay. I guess we shouldn't have any questions on that. We heard it all this morning. Okay, resolution, Mallory?
Okay, be it resolved that bylaw 2024-06, which is a bylaw to adopt OPA 5, official plan amendment for the lands of Emerson Lumber Limited, on part lot 17, concession 8, part mill reserve, part lots 1, 6 to 8, block M, lots 2, 3, and 4, block Q, plan 1, part road allowance, parts 2, 3, 6, and part of part 1, registered plan 19R-8209, parts 1 and 2, plan 19R-3816, part 2, plan 19R-4579, part 2, plan 19R-10782 in the geographic township of Dysart, municipality of Dysart et al. Be read a first, second, and third times, signed, and the corporate seal attached thereto. Staff are directed to forward OPA 5 to the county of Haliburton for approval, and further that bylaw 2024-07, which is a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2005-120 for the lands of Emerson Lumber Limited, which would change the zone on the subject lands from urban residential type 3-13 exception zone withholding provision to highway commercial CH-36 exception zone. Be read a first, second, third time, pass, sign, and the corporate seal attached thereto.
Okay, mover and seconder, Nancy and Pat, all in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, who's doing John Cowan?
I can start off. So this is a returning application by John and Rosalie Cowan to purchase their shore allowance on Grass Lake. At the council meeting in November, council directed the staff to contact the applicants to see if they were willing or agreeable to the condition to naturalize their shoreline. The applicants have provided a detailed response, which is attached to the council report. Ultimately, they state that if council includes a condition to renaturalize the shoreline, that they will not proceed with the application. They do invite council to meet with them on site prior to a decision, just so that you can review the property if you like. If council has any questions about this report or would like me to elaborate on Mr. and Mrs. Cowan's comments, I'd be happy to do so.
So does somebody want to meet them?
What, I guess, what are we gonna see if we go to meet them now? Versus going to meet them in the spring or something?
Yeah, exactly.
But they made a good point in their thing. It's got trees, it's got whatever, any natural vegetation deer have eaten. Well, eaten Halliburton, of course it has. But we looked at the pictures before and to me it looked.
Just look at
natural,
this
it needs to
dock,
be-
there's lots of green grass and even, there's just even a narrow pathway down to the lake. On the ones I'm looking at here, there's lots of growth between the willow tree and the lake as well, so I think it looks good.
I said, look at last one.
Here?
Oops. Is this water here?
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So what are we saying? That we're happy with the way it is? Yeah. Okay, I guess they're satisfied the way things are. So we would pass that then?
So yeah, Jeff, I'll just have you help me here. Will we just remove we just passed the first paragraph of the resolution?
In terms of the shoreline buffer, that's the second resolution.
The second
The third
paragraph?
resolution relates to a zoning compliance issue with regards to a shed beside the dwelling.
Gotcha. Okay, so I can read the resolution as amended if council's ready for that.
Has he agreed to move the shed? Yeah? Has he agreed to move the shed?
I think he said he's willing to address it once the survey's obtained. Mr. Cowan is present today, so perhaps it'd be better if he answered that question.
Okay.
Yes, we need a survey to figure out where the property line is because the iron bar is not to be found. And then whatever the process is between the neighbor and the township, we'll worry about then. Removal, moving, or a variance of some sort.
So then we can pass the first part of the resolution and we'll wait till we get the survey then, yeah?
Well, we did separate the resolution
Yeah,
with
I know
regards
you
to the
did, yeah.
shed, so it won't hold up the shoreline application. So if you
Okay.
approve 1 and 3 today, I think this application can still go forward, and it's something that he can just address with the municipality at that time.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, Mallory?
Okay, be it resolved that council approves for processing an application by John and Rosalie Cowan to purchase a portion of the shore road allowance along the shore of Grass Lake in front of their properties in part lot 12, concession 8 in the geographic township of Dysart. Pursuant to section 3.2.7 of the official plan, the hot tub shall be removed or brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw. These lands are declared surplus. And further, that council directs bylaw enforcement to review the shed with respect to the applicable bylaws.
Okay. Mover and seconder, Carm and Pat, all in favor? Okay. Next,
Yeah, so this application is an application by Roy Clark to purchase the shore road allowance in front of his property on Grace Lake. Similar to the previous application, this is an application where council directed staff to contact the applicant to see if they were agreeable to the condition to renaturalize their shoreline. Mr. Clark has provided a letter which is attached to the report. He advises that the shoreline has not been changed since they own the property, and actually that they've planted trees and natural vegetation on the property since then. I have reviewed further pictures of the shoreline buffer with the applicant, and it looks decent from different angles. It's hard to tell. The one thing I do note that is the conditions are worded in a way that if it does comply, then no work is required by the applicant. But I do seek direction from council with regards to that condition. and permission to process the application.
Okay, Tammy, do you have a comment there?
Good.
Looks like the rest of the lake, is that what you're saying? Tammy?
Yeah.
So the building, is that a boathouse or what is that?
The one closest to the water is a wood shed.
Okay. And has he been asked to do anything with that?
We've reviewed it in the past, and I believe it's legal non-complying.
Okay, okay. That's fine. Okay, so it's good to go then? Okay, Mallory, away we go.
Okay, be it resolved that council approves for processing an application by Clark to purchase a portion of the shore road allowance along the shore of Grace Lake in front of his property in part lot 1, concession 1, parts 1, 2, and 3, plan 19R-8197 in the geographic township of Harcourt. These lands are declared surplus, and further the applicant provide confirmation that the shoreline vegetation buffer complies with the intent of the official plan, zoning bylaw, and site alteration bylaw.
Okay, mover and seconder, Tammy and Barry, all in favor? Carried. Okay, Lanza Jeffrey.
Okay, just moving on. So Mr. and Mrs. Jeffrey have made application to purchase their shore road allowance in front of their property on Kinesis Lake. And this is to resolve an encroachment issue with structures located on the shore road allowance. As per the preliminary plans provided, there is a single-story dwelling and boathouse located on the shore road allowance. We have no record of a permit for the attached deck on the boathouse. So we are recommending a condition, which is directed by the official plan that the deck attached to that boathouse be removed or brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw. Just seek direction from council to process this application.
So are you asking us to defer that or just change the condition?
There is a condition in there that recommends removal of the deck attached to the boathouse or for it to be brought into compliance. So that can mean a host of things. They could get a variance, they could prove legal non-complying status, they could get a zoning amendment, or they could remove it.
So it's up to the process then?
Yep.
Okay, Mallory?
Okay, be it resolved that council approves for processing an application by Mr. and Mrs. Jeffrey to purchase a portion of the shore road allowance along the shore of Kinesis Lake in front of their property in part lot 8, concession 1 in the geographic township of Havelock. Pursuant to section 3.2.7 of the official plan, the deck attached to the boathouse shall be removed or brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw. These lands are declared surplus.
Mover and seconder? Carm and Pat, all in favor? Carried. Okay, next is Refo.
Correct. The next item is an application to purchase the shore road allowance in front of the Refo property on Kinesis Lake. This property is unique in that it is a legal non-conforming residential use on a property that's zoned open space. The property exceeds the maximum number of accessory structures permitted in an open space zoned property. But the municipality did issue building permits for some of those structures, so the municipality may have some responsibility regarding the zoning compliance issues. What staff are recommending is that the property be rezoned during the next general zoning bylaw update, which is scheduled for 2025. So this would bring the property into compliance with the intended use of the owners at no expense to the property owner, and it would not impact the timing of this application. Other than that, staff just seek direction with regards to that recommended condition and recommend approval to process the application.
Okay, resolution? Mallory?
Yep. Be it resolved that council approves for processing an application by Mr. and Mrs. Refo to purchase a portion of the shore road allowance along the shore of Kinesis Lake in front of their property in part lot 20, concession 4 in the geographic township of Havelock. These lands are declared surplus. And further, that council directs the bylaw enforcement department to review the deck attached to the private cabin with respects to applicable bylaws And further that the shoreline vegetation buffer be re-naturalized to the full depths of the water setback, consistent with the intent of the official plan zoning bylaw and site alteration bylaw.
Okay. Mover and seconder. Tammy and Nancy, all in favor? Carried. Okay, next.
I believe we're moving on to the application for permission to use road allowance from Mr. Manhurst and the Pollards, who are adjacent property owners on the north side of Coagama Lake.
Yeah.
The application's for permission to cross a small portion of the municipal road allowance to gain legal access to their property. So this application is actually a condition of application for consent, H-047-23, which was endorsed by council in October. And based on the direction provided by policy 32, which permits the use of unopened road allowances for private roads or driveways, staff recommend council approve this request.
Oh, you're in a good mood today. Resolution?
Be it resolved that council grants permission for the registered owner of rolls number 061-00-28125 Manertz and 061-000-28600 Polar to cross and use a portion of the road allowance between lots 15 and 16, concession 13 in the geographic township of Havelock, further described as part 2 on registered plan 19R-9184 as shown on the sketch attached to the assigned acknowledgement form. Permission extends to heirs, successors, assigns, and invited guests and is subject to terms and conditions outlined in the municipality's standard acknowledgement form for use of a road allowance. Use is restricted to uses permitted in zoning bylaw 2005-120 as amended.
Okay, resolution. Tammy and Nancy, all in favor? Carried. Okay, Norris.
Yes, thank you. So these proposals, the next two were for to sever and convey a portion of the property benefiting lands. However, staff have received a request from the consultant this morning that these two be deferred. Reason is there's a condition that's in the report that the owner is to convey a portion of the lands to the municipality for the maintenance of to the municipality for maintenance vehicle turnaround at the end of True North Road. The consultant reviewed with their client, which had concerns with the condition and would like to request that the application be deferred to give their client just some more time to consider the condition and work with the Public Works Department to provide more detail on how that turnaround will look. So they're just requesting that this be deferred until they can work with Public Works at this point.
Okay, oh, that's reasonable. Okay, resolution.
So this is a two-part. So
Yeah.
Chris, is it okay if we read both of them and get, okay, perfect.
Sure, we'll do them
So-
both at once.
Yeah, sure, we could do that. So first we have be it resolved that council defers severance proposal for D00-SV-2023-026 Lands of Norris. Do we want to move her in a seconder for that? Then I'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, moving seconder, Nancy and Carm. Okay,
Okay,
In
and
favor?
then we've got be resolved that council diverse severance proposal D00-SV-2023-027 Lands of Norris.
yeah, mover and seconder, Nancy and Carm again, all in favor? Carried.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just gonna read these. If you have a report, just give it. If you don't have, we'll just move on. Harcourt?
Yeah, so I can report that we had a meeting last week to go ahead with the playground equipment.
Right,
So I think that is going out for tender, so I think 4 weeks and we should have that under control as to who's gonna do it and
Okay.
what's gonna go in there.
okay. That's it then?
Yeah.
That's good news. Westkill for nothing, Rails End, Nancy? Oh, I thought he shook his head, so I.
Nothing new. It's all the same. Yeah, it's nothing.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Not terrible. Okay, Nancy?
Rails End is actually closed, physically closed right now, but they're having a lot of their building maintenance done right now and doing some interior painting and stuff and planning ahead. And West Guilford's having their snow shuffle soon in February. Still exciting.
Okay, Pat, you said you had BIA tonight?
Yeah, BIA's tomorrow night, Murray.
Tomorrow night?
Yeah, nothing on Harvest Halliburton.
Okay. Source water protection, Walt's not here. Upper Trent, Barry, anything? No? Okay. Okay, who's gonna do the draft Glebe Park Museum Committee? Pretty standard, isn't it? I mean, it's not standard, but.
Nancy, are you talking? I can't hear you, sorry.
Don't want me to. She said
Okay.
that Glebe Park Stewardship Plan is up for review. And
Right.
review it again every.
I think we'll have a delegation on that coming in the spring on that plan. So that's to come.
Okay. So I guess then we just accept the report, right?
Yeah, so I have a resolution here. So be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the draft minutes from the November 9th, 2023 Glebe Park and Museum Committee as information.
Okay, mover and seconder. Let me see. Barry and Tammy, all in favor? Okay. Okay, the next is the draft Cultural Resources Committee meeting minutes.
So there are a few recommendations within this report. More details will come on those at a later date, just so council knows. So for this meeting, we'll acknowledge receipt of the draft minutes and then further information will come on the recommendations within this, in the minutes in here.
Okay, let's have it then.
Okay, so be it resolved that council acknowledges receipt of the draft minutes from the November 23rd, 2023 Cultural Resources Committee as information.
Okay, mover and seconder. Nancy and Carl, all in favor? So we actually didn't include anything in the budget for cultural resources at this point, have we? I didn't think we did. Okay,
Yes, there is. Yeah.
yeah, I know it's up for review for sure. So I guess my point is, do we need to go into closed session today to talk about it? I don't know. Yeah, the council. I'm looking for guidance here.
No, it's not on the agenda.
We just going to go into close then.
Yeah, I can read the resolution to go into close if you'd like.
Yep.
Okay, so be it resolved that council adjourn its regular meeting at 1:20 PM. To discuss matters pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act as amended pertaining to 1, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. 2, a proposed disposition of land in the township of Dysart, Wonderland Road property. 3, proposed disposition of land in the township of Havelock. Part road allowance on Little Kinesis Lake. 4, proposed acquisition of land in the township of Dysart, County Road 21 land donation. 5, a proposed acquisition of land in the township of Guilford, West Guilford landfill buffer zone. And 6, a trade secret or scientific, technical, commercial, financial, or labor relations information supplied in confidence to municipality or local board, which if disclosed could reasonably be expected to prejudice significantly the competitive position or interfere significantly with the contractual or other negotiations of a person, group of persons, or organization, and that's public works, wastewater infrastructure.
Okay, mover and seconder. Pat and Carm, all in favor? Carried. Okay, resolution to adopt the closed
Oh,
session.
we'll have to wait till we switch back over. But
Oh, darn, yeah.
one sec.
What's it doing now? Does anybody know? Just cloud? Okay. Okay. Report from closed session. No? So we got two resolutions, right? Two resolutions, Mallory, we got?
We got three, so we'll start first with so we have an estimate of market value. This is for application L 07 RO 2023 001. So it's a purchase of a part road allowance between lots 25 and 26, concession 5 on Little Kinesis Lake. So I'll read the resolution. Be it resolved that council approves the estimate of market value of John Parish dated January 10th, 2024. With respect to part of the road allowance between lots 25 and 26, concession 5 in the township of Havelock. The purchase price for the lands is set at $55,000.
Okay, mover and seconder, Barry and Carm, all in favor? Carried.
Sorry, Maria, not meaning to, is it okay if I keep going?
Yes, you get carry right on.
Okay. The next one is for the West Guilford landfill extension of the buffer zone. So I've got a resolution here to read. So be it resolved that council authorizes the purchase of the property legally described as part of Part Lot 7, Concession 3 in the geographic township of Guilford for $40,000 from Jacob Haxon, which is the West Guilford landfill buffer extension, and further directs the clerk, CAO, mayor, and treasurer to take all action to execute all documentation required to complete the purchase.
Okay, mover and seconder, Carm and Nancy, all in favor? Carried.
Okay, and then the final item is the proposed donation of land on County Road 21.
Okay,
Would you like me to read the resolution on it?
well, you read it and then we'll see what we do with it.
Okay, so be it resolved that council declines the offer from Marnie Blair to gift lands described as Part Lot 3, Concession 7 in the geographic township of Dysart, and further direct staff to bring forward a bylaw to rescind bylaw 2021-84, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of an agreement for the Blair land donation, and bylaw 2021-85, being a bylaw to provide for the acquisition of the Blair lands.
Okay. So, I guess I could just add to that, could I, or just say what I'm going to say? Having made that decision, council considered several things. First of all, the gifted with conditions was presented in 2021. In April of 2023, council reached out again to see if there was a solution to purchase this property that would satisfy not being a gift, but with conditions, take some of the conditions off. Since that time, we haven't heard from the owner. We've got considerable dollars in it. And quite frankly, we've got projects that are much more viable and important at this time. And unfortunately, unless there's some movement, we'll be all unable to accept them or offer. Does that sound right? long as I can remember that now.
So if council agrees, then we just need a mover and a seconder.
Yeah, so everybody mover and seconder, Carmen and Nancy, all in favor, carried. And now a bylaw to confirm the proceedings.
Okay, be it resolved that bylaw number 2024-08 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the regular council meeting held on January 23rd, 2024, be read a first, second, and third time, pass, sign, and the corporate seal attached thereto.
Mover and seconder. Tammy and Barry, all in favor? Carried. And the adjournment, Walt's not here.
Okay, be it resolved that council adjourn its regular meeting held on January 23rd, 2024 at 2:42 p.m.
Mover and seconder, Tammy and Pat, all in favor? Carried. Thank you.